1. Howdy, y'all. Mecha here, and welcome to Side Questing with my current guest. Now we're already about to start. Current guest.
You want to start again?
Now, ForestBoyProductions.
Hello, hello, hello. I am here.
Do the intro, monkey.
Fine then. What's up, my evergreen friends? I am Forest Boy, and I'm currently sitting at my desk listening to this wonderful man serenade me with his dulcet tones.
I don't know about that, but I mean, paid torture is still an app on the phone.
Do
Anyway,
not threaten me with a good time.
I guess today's topic would be mods and my opinion on them and why I don't. Not why people shouldn't. I don't really want to discourage people from modding their games because there's a lot of people that religiously play games for a certain mod, So it's mainly my outlook on things, and then Forrest could give his outlook on why. I guess I'm kind of asking him to kind of convince me to start kind of opening up and looking at the mods.
See, because I'm on the completely opposite side of the camp, where I think that mods are absolutely fantastic. I think mods are very wonderful.
Alright, so just for the giggles, in case your grandmother is watching, a mod is a modification of a game made by a developer, a team that was paid to do a job. I'm already going to put a little bit of biased hate in here. And then somebody comes along, deems that they could do better, and they spend their weekends changing a game of somebody else's work and then has it out there for other people to play.
Okay, now tell us how you really feel. Alright, let me just do the quick textbook here. A mod is generally a fan-made modification of assets, code. It could be anything from gameplay to visual design of a game. Could be anything. Could be simple as just changing some text around. Could be a whole thing that changes how the entire game functions. Who knows?
And that's probably a lot more accurate than mine. Now, I guess
It's the generic answer.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts on mods is I'm what you call a purist. If Bethesda sets out a game like say Morrowind or even Skyrim, since that's probably one of the main things people are playing other than 4. Like Skyrim, I believe that the game that was released.
Oh god, Skyrim 4.
Yeah, Skyrim 4. We're already at what, 6 on that?
I think we are actually.
That the game that was released was the game that was intended by the devs. This is the story. Yeah, some of them will have say, well, we couldn't get so and so put in there and all that. Which you can say, well, what if a mod, I'm already going to challenge you, what if a mod puts that in there? Well, could they not done the same thing through a DLC or a patch themselves? Yes. And if they didn't, that means that they had no intention of ever really putting it back in there. They may have ran out of time and initially wanted it, but as the game progressed or after its release, they changed against it. Because there has been things I've seen in Oblivion and even Skyrim where, yeah, it was a planned feature, but at release we couldn't really do it, but later we brought it back as the Home Guard, Homebound, what is that DLC with the houses?
Hearthstone?
Hearthstone. No, that's not it. Hearthfire.
No.
Hearthfire.
Hearthfire.
Yeah, I was like Hearthfire, because they said we always kind of planned to have houses and play our own houses and be able to do more with it. Okay, well, that I don't mind, but it's whenever a player comes in there and say, I'm going to add the Ichigo sword in there because I'm a fan of Bleach and I want the Sailor Moon Scout uniform.
To be fair, one of the first things I grabbed when I first started modding was actually Cloud Strife's Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII.
It's like, but why? A lot of people, I have asked other people, they said because we can. Because we can. And it's like, well, if I had a game, I don't know if I would really allow modding, but if I did, I would also allow limits. Like, hey, don't bring Pokemon into my game because it's not what that kind of game is. You know, if you
Hmm.
need a Pokemon fix, go play Pokemon. You know, my game isn't a Pokemon game. My game is Skyrim. If you want to, you know, a Quest of Solitude, joke, pun intended, then play Skyrim. If you're wanting to catch small creatures, go play Pokemon. But if you mix them both, you'll neither get Pokemon nor Skyrim.
I don't know. It's kind of messy. I do agree that crossover mods are really iffy. Yeah, I love mods, but crossover mods are generally kind of eh.
Yeah, I'll give you a moment to kind of give a few positivities, and then I'll talk a few about a. You asked me if I play with them. No, have I ever? I have tried a one, I think, and that one was what was it? It was the Skyrim patch to bring out cut content. I can't think of what it's called, but for Skyrim, it brings out all the content that they cut out, which is tiny little things that most people wouldn't even notice anyway. Like at the beginning, when you first walk into Whiterun, there's that Helga girl talking to one of the stable
Blonde
boys.
haired wearing iron armor. I remember that.
Stable boys talking about Cicero with his crate or his cart,
Oh,
and that's how you found out about him. And in the real game, you don't have her there, and you don't really know about him unless you just happen to.
oh, I severely mixed up what you were talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, but and then there was another one that brought out that warrior's helmet that was in this ice, crevice somewhere deep up in the mountains, and you picked up a helmet and it said the lost champion. And it was like a little mini boss fight. And you got his iron helmet that was like resistant to frost or something. And then in the base game you go up there and there's no helmet or no skeleton wakes up, but the shrine is still there. The grave is still there. That kind of little things. And even after that, I played it for I specifically went to go experience the things they said on this list, and I had such a great hate for it. Even though there was no real glitches or bugs or anything that made the game unstable, what it was is
Well, nothing that wasn't already in Skyrim.
what it was is like, but it's not the Skyrim they intended or that's there. It's not the Skyrim I know. This girl is not supposed to let me know that Cicero was there. I'm supposed to figure that out myself. Maybe
To
they
be
intended
honest,
it, but since they never re-added it with all these years they've ever re-released Skyrim, they
I
never
will say
re-added
that
it.
I feel like that was intentional. That the reason they cut that was intentional.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just kind of walking up on that weird wagon with this weird jester dude, that's a lot more natural and actually more intriguing.
Then you hearing about it and say, I'm gonna go see what it's about. You know.
I genuinely love just kind of walking up and then all of a sudden out of this, this kind of cold, very straight faced, high fantasy world, there's this strange jester man. It
Yeah.
feels a lot more natural and intriguing to me.
Yeah, and not just that, but like the helmet of the old champion or forgotten champion. It's like, I, you'd live without it anyway, because to get up there, you'd have to be fighting high level creatures anyway, and it was like a low level, like level 2 or level 3 iron helmet with a 10% resistant to frost damage.
So you've had very limited exposure to
No,
mods,
no, no, no.
right?
I actively, believe it or not, I'm gonna make an admission. I have made a mod that I
Okay.
that I personally use. Now, there's
A mod for what, and what does it do?
it's for Morrowind and it's for Creeper, and the only thing it does is change his base gold value to, I don't know, I think it's 5,000. I changed it like 100 billion, and the only reason why I did that is because when you go to sell your Daedric items there for like 10,000 gold, well, you gotta sell him a few items, buy a few back to balance it up to 5,000, exit out, sleep for 24 hours for him to reset, sell those old items you just bought back, sleep again to get another 5,000 back. Well, in order to fix that, just for the sake of efficiency, I just made it where I could quickly sell all my stuff and then leave.
So basically a time saver mod.
Yeah, that's all it was. And it just says the Rich Creeper mod. You can look it up on Nexus Mods now, and
Nice.
it's for Morrowind, and it's had like a couple of thousand downloads, even though I don't advertise it. And
Nice. So that means people were thinking the same thing.
yeah, And you say, well, how do you not play with mods if you play with that? I also don't play with it. I also sometimes say, well, if I'm going to do a Puritan run, I'll take it off. But even sometimes on my Puritan runs, because it's not
Right there,
changing the
right
base.
there. I think that's actually I think that's actually the huge difference between us, because you like to do runs, don't you? Like, you have a goal in mind usually,
No,
right?
when I play like Morrowind, I'm just in it for the game. It's like this cave is called Butternut Cave. This is what's meant to be in this cave: 3 bandits and a box. I don't need a mod to come around to say, also, we added where you walk in there and there's a teleporter that takes you to the Teletubby world. I don't need that in my game.
That sounds fantastic.
I don't want that in my game because if I wanted Teletubbies, I'd go get Teletubbies. If I wanted
Also,
Ichigo, I'd
why
go
would you
watch Bleach.
why would you want Teletubbies?
Yeah, and if I wanted the Buster Sword, I'd go play Final Fantasy. But keep my games apart. And you go, okay, well, that's cross mods. What about adding like
No, yeah,
Oblivion
this is
weapons?
generally what we need to go here. We need to talk. We need to stop talking about like little crossovers, weird little shit that just adds like memorabilia from other games. We need to get into like what the core of modding that generally people go for.
Okay, let's talk about that
Graphics overhauls,
extra crispy.
gameplay changes,
You know that
extra
one.
crispy.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that's
Yeah,
what.
because modding is not exclusive to Bethesda.
No, no,
There's
no.
many games that can be modded, and personally, look, I love Blood. It's a great shooter from the 90s. It's one of those classics that came after the build engine. Right after the Doom craze, first-person shooters were really starting to launch
What about
off.
the Deus
Duke
Ex? Would it be
Nukem,
around that?
Shadow Warrior, and then Blood. And
Yeah.
Blood's great, but look, after playing it once, it's a very difficult game. You have to save scum a lot, and it is a bit dated. It's fun, but it lacks that modern oomph. Extra Crispy is such a special mod because they really put a lot of love into making sure that not only does it fit in with the vibe that Blood has, it also um it also hmm it's kind of hard to say.
Let me
It
play
fits in with
devil's
the
advocate
vibe.
and say it makes it easier for you. No,
It does make it easier.
it
It
makes
does
it
make it easier.
accessible. Accessible.
That's what I was talking about in my video. By the way, you should watch that. Totally watch that right now.
I did, by the way. That's what gave me the idea for this. And I was like,
And
it's time to challenge that innocent schoolgirl belief on mods. Let's try to crush it out of him, and hopefully not. Instead of he convinces me to ease up a little bit.
I am a very stalwart warrior. Very, very. I'd be very impressed if you managed to do that. But anyway, let me finish my train of thought before it completely derails. The mod does make it more accessible. It does make it more accessible for more people. It makes it more straightforward, enjoyable, in my opinion. Which, of course, some Puritans, because there's a lot of Puritans in the retro shooter or boomer shooter genre, as it's known now, would say that it's blasphemy. And power to them. I'm not going to judge how other people play, but I will say that this mod does make it more accessible, and I think more people would want to play it. It's a genuine enhancement of the game, in my opinion.
All right, now to play devil's advocate, my thoughts would be like, if I was talking to somebody else, like you, if you was if I walked up to you and said, I want to get into Blood, what is your advice? Your would be get the mod.
Not in particular.
My advice.
I would say try vanilla Blood first on the lowest difficulty to see how you feel. If that's too easy, bump up the difficulty. If the gameplay's too dated, try the mod.
Yeah, me, if I was talking to somebody else and they said, "Hey, I saw this game called Blood. What are your thoughts on it? There's so and so mod and they got this over here." And I said, "Well, my first thought is play it through the normal difficulty, the way that it was intended to play, one complete
Now,
playthrough."
here's what I would ask you, though. The interesting thing about the version of Blood I was playing is that it's technically a mod, because it's not running on the original engine. It's running on a modernized version of the build engine. What do you say to that?
Uh, I say games that they wouldn't that be? I would almost call that like a remake. Like, hey, we took it off the old engine, we put on there, but we did not change the graphics, the levels, the layouts, the
All
numbers,
that is
bugs,
untouched, by the way.
and then something like that is like, all right, whatever. You just made it. It's just a GOG game at that point because that's what GOG does. They take DOS
It
games
is,
and
it's
they
on
make.
GOG, by the way.
That's what it is. I play a lot of GOG games all the time, and
They
I
got
don't
good shit on there.
and I don't see it as a mod though. I just see it as modernized. Now, that's not to say that if I really want to go super pure, I go DOSBox or
DOSBox.
I go whatever else system that it requires. I'll virtual a Windows 3.1, which I have just to play Castle of the Winds because I grew up with that game when Windows 3.1 was a thing. So, and if they put it on modern systems, whatever, I'd play it. But if they say also we changed this, no, you already, I'm done. I don't even care anymore. I no
What I
longer
do
care.
appreciate is that Night Dive Studios, who did this engine remaster of Blood and now Power Slave, a fucking great game, by the way, I highly recommend, is that you can actually turn it to the old modes of control, like no mouse look and everything.
Yeah, like recently I got what is it, System Shock? I got System Shock,
You need to
and
play that. I got that as a bundle.
and I was like gonna play a little bit through it and kind of, so I was gonna do a video on it because I've never played it really, so it'd be more of a reactional instead of just hey watch me play a game I played 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And it had System Shock in the System Shock Enhanced Edition. I was like,
If I remember, that was also handled by Night Dive Studios.
I don't
They've
know,
been very busy.
I don't know, but I was kind of like Enhanced Edition, huh? What does that mean? And I sit there and Googled it, and the people said literally the only thing that that mod does is give it mouse look, and I absolutely refuse to use it.
Really?
I I just like nope. I immediately deleted the enhanced edition and just took the original one. That's like because if the developer, because if you can, if it can be modded on the, and that's what it is, it's the old engine to put mouse look on there, and the devs didn't. That's because they did not intend for you to move around with mouse look. They intended you to use the keyboard and the controls they have made for the game. And I used it for a little bit with the mouse look, and I said, all of a sudden, it's easy. You know, at first I was like, all right, well, I got to hit these arrow keys and I got to kind of move like this. And I was like, all right, I could kind of get it why, you know, it was considered, it wasn't hard, but you got to kind of know what you're doing, expect a monster to turn at this angle, and then you aim and then you swing a few times and you kill it. With this, it's like, oh, monster, click, turn, click, click, and you go right back to what I was doing, and they're dead. It's like, that, while you may not changed the game, it changed the way the game is played. And that means a
So
lot.
technically, by your definition, it's in a sense, it's a gameplay mod.
It makes it accessible and hence making it easier. While I watched your video on Expert Crispy, I don't. You did say that it does make it easier.
It does make it easier, which is one of the things, like, I was suggesting that, yes, you can crank up the difficulty, but it does fundamentally change the balance of the game more in the favor of the player than the actual AI.
Because I'm almost like hateful or spiteful in the fact, and I have the idea that if the game's too hard for you, then the game's not for you. Don't play it. If you can't figure out the controls on System Shock, then don't play it. The game's obviously not meant for you. But the people that do figure it out, they do love it, and they usually don't mod it. They're like, no, we just kind of grew up with those controls. That's just how it goes, you know? That's just how it is to me when I see a game like, uh, let's see here, like Super Mario Brothers. Let me try a different one. My first game I ever played was Legend of Zelda for the NES, right? Well,
Yeah.
I looked up what is it called. There's a mod that they changed the game. Lost something. I can't think of it right now. But
ROM hacks? Oh, those are fun.
yeah, I played a ROM hack, and even though it was totally different, it was still to me like Zelda. And the only thing I think it changed is where the starting sword was located. Is like randomized.
I'd like to bring up a topic later about mods that change everything, but
Yeah.
let's continue this. Now, here's the thing, though. What about mods that? Because one of the things, like, what if you're not playing particularly for the difficulty? Like when it comes to Fresh Supply and the mod Extra Crispy, why I love Blood, what makes it stand out for me is the vibe, the campy 80s, 90s horror, the one liners, the gore, the darkness. That's really what draws me to Blood.
Yeah,
So having more modernized gameplay makes it even more fun for me.
right. So my outlook on that is if you don't have the time to invest in getting good at something like a game or how it's played, then don't play games. Watch videos on them. That's why we have YouTube now. That's why I do a lot of older, harder games like System Shock and these games that are really difficult. That way, other people that are interested in looking at what the original Fallout 1, Fallout 2 looked like, or the Arena and Dagger Falls, what they looked like and how they kind of felt like and how they were played without actually investigating the hundreds of hours of getting the control scheme down, getting the layout of the area right, on what steps to take properly so you don't have a busted character that can't go anywhere, and how to level your stats. That's what gamers like us are for that upload this to make it more available to an audience. See, like Blood, I never really was interested in that. But I would watch yours. That way I get a sense of, okay, I know what it is now. I know what Blood is. I didn't have to play it for 1,000 hours to kind of get a feel for it. I just watch you. I watched the modded, but you know what I mean. I watch Mandalore Gaming, and he sits there and he does wonderful, beautiful reviews on games with a little bit of
He's
humor.
genuinely interesting. I do like him.
And like Pathologic, I plan on doing a playthrough of that now just because of him. And the way he puts it up is like, let me explain every little detail to you so you don't have to. Because he warns you, this game is hard and you will lose. But I beat it for you so that way you can experience the story and you can experience the game. So I would tell you about the same thing like Blood. If you don't have the, because see, say Blood by the developers was meant to play on normal. If you don't have the time to dedicate to play it and get good at normal, then don't do it. Because all it would be is a waste of time for you, and it'll cause a lot of problems for you. And then we get people's like, well, I'm going to make it easier and easier and easier. Then you finally lose the essence of the game. Because one of the first comments on that video was, uh, cultists without that hit scan makes it feel a little bit different. And
I
that
would argue that, yes, of course, part of the thing of especially a hallmark of old shooters was hit
and he
scanners.
said that made
It
it
was,
lose its charm. He said that's exactly his words. He said cultists without that hit scan seems to make it lose its charm. And
now, I'm on the other side thinking, why is that part of the charm? Because the cultists, to me, are these incredibly strange and slightly amusing enemies where their charm is the weird way they scream at you and don't stop screaming their weird cultist language while they shoot at you.
well, that's the thing. Have you ever looked up the developing cycle of Blood and how the developers? Because a lot of them did it back then. They explained this is what our ideas was. This is what we felt like it was. Because there's plenty of times I've watched developer commentary on a certain game like Duke Nukem and like the pig cops. You know who I'm talking about, right? The pig cops.
Of course.
And they were like, everybody's like, oh, they were calling cops pigs, and it was fighting the establishment and all that. And then so they made it a joke. And then when you go to the developer, they said, no, we thought of a pig because of their tough hide, and it made them really strong. So we decided to make them a strong enemy like that. Had nothing to do with calling the police a pig. And they when they brought it up to the developer, they go, now that you say that, we apologize. We didn't realize that we were doing that because we actually have a lot of respect for police officers. And then you look at the game in a different view. It's like, oh, the developers wasn't trying to give us that message. They were just saying that the pig cops were actually a tough creature. Oh, so when you
Considering that does come from the people who ended up working at Gearbox, I would take that for real because they're not afraid from doing offensive humor. But if that was unintentional, I would take their word for that for sure.
Yeah, so if you go up to the developers of Blood, I don't know if there's anything on YouTube, this hypothetically say there is, and you watch it and you said, we wanted cultists to be like a real serious threat to the player. We wanted them to be around every corner and hidden and like this constant threat that in this room could be my last room because of these insane people that are of the deepest evil coming after me, and then but through your eyes, you're seeing them as these goofy, SpongeBob-like characters. But once you read that, wouldn't you think it'd have a different outlook on the game after that? You're like, oh, I
All
didn't,
right.
I didn't realize they were supposed to be a joke. I thought they were a joke, but they were supposed to be actual, real serious and supposed to scare me. Oops. How would that change your outlook on things?
Well, Blood inherently is a bit of a goofy
Yeah,
game.
it's meant to be comedy. I'm just using it as an example.
I would say that that wouldn't really fit though with the canon that they're setting up. I would argue that a mod that makes Caleb more of a killing machine would keep more with the canon that they're saying.
Well,
Because Caleb, as a character, he's meant to be a guy who was so angry at being betrayed by the dark god he worshipped that he came back from death and just started mowing through the Cabal. And when he finally got to the dark god Chernobog, he took him down with shotguns, dynamite, and machine guns.
and that's all. That sounds like really hardcore metal stuff. You're like, oh yeah, that's metal.
All while humming show tunes and making references to like Army of Darkness and Candyman and old shit like that.
Yeah. So you think, oh man, that's all metal. Like if you talk to John Romero, he didn't want Doom to be a funny, comedian thing. He wanted it to be a serious shooter. That's why whenever people kept saying, well, what's the lore? Because people were used to at that time of games having stories like Dungeons and Dragons, The Bard's Tale.
Isn't that famous quote in video games? I can't remember exactly who. It might have been John Romero. I know it was someone at id Software. They said stories in video games are like stories in porn. They're there to supplement it, but that's not what everyone is there for. That was their philosophy.
That says you have ever seen The Pizza Boy Returns? Ugh.
Yeah, tearjerker. Honestly, best movie.
Anyway,
other things are being jerked, but that's not important.
he finally said, you know what? He went to avenge his dead rabbit. There you go. No, move on. Stop asking about the story.
Honestly, I think that's some very charming lore.
And it is. And then that's why in the modern Doom, if you look out one of the space windows and to the side, you'll see the actual rabbit standing out on the ledge. It's an Easter egg.
Here's the thing. I feel like Bethesda really missed the point because all of a sudden now Doom is this incredibly lore-heavy fucking thing. It's like, oh, I think I get it.
Oh, yeah. By the way, they made the Isabella and Doom guy official.
Yeah, I think I get it. Like, it just clicked to me. Like, I'm a fan of Doom. I'll play Doom basically vanilla, actually. I very much love Doom. And one of the things I loved about Doom 1 and Doom 2, not so much Doom 3, was the fact that they were very story minimal, and the fact that Doom Guy was literally just Doom Guy. Like, he was just a guy. I loved that.
Yeah.
I adored that. And then Bethesda comes along, they get a hold of the IP, they do this reboot, and I'm just like, what the fuck, man? And what is all this lore? What is all this Doom Slayer heralding the end of the demons and all that? What is all this?
Yeah, I just want my super shotgun, and I want to see things explode, If I wanted a story, I'd go play Skyrim.
I don't know. I felt like I was really the outlier because even a YouTuber that I really look up to, he's this dude who really loves shooters. He's called Civvy11, and he was absolutely enamored by it. And all I could think of I've played Doom 2016. I'm not touching Eternal, and it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't. You can't slap Doom on that. It doesn't make me happy.
You know what? If I would have said instead of calling it Doom called it Space Marines. And kept the game the exact same, how would that change your outlook on the game?
If you weren't saying that this is the proper successor to Doom,
all I said is a game called Space Marines. That's it.
Yeah, if you were just saying like this is our new thing that we're doing, I'd be like, okay. If you're telling me that this is the successor to Doom, this is our rebooting the franchise, then I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
I feel like we're very far off topic of mods.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to use
My
Doom as
point that
a
I was trying to make is that I suddenly understood that feeling of you've changed something that I love.
yeah. That's how kind of how I get mods too. It's like, hey, you changed something that I know is already good enough. Is why, hence, I have 1,000 hours invested into it. If you can't, if you need something more, then
Now,
play a
here's
different
something I will
game.
say. That was a bit of a tangent that I went on where I was talking about I do kind of understand the feeling of all of a sudden having something someone taking something that I love and being like, "Okay, now let's make it better," and I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
And but what about the case of like Skyrim where people have hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, I maybe not that much, but and they're looking for something different. They love this game, and there is the potential to make it more. What is so wrong with mods when you've like done the same thing over and over to add more to a game you love?
My argument is there's two different arguments on that, and I'll use the MMO argument where I used to play MMO and I was the world champion at it, literally the best in the world. I had like rewards and awards and stuff for being the best in all the world. They like merged the servers and I won the PvP match. And I absolutely hate PvP. I don't even want to play PvP today. If I was like Warframe, you're like, yeah, but you got to shoot other players. I'd automatically install and I'd never touch it again. I
Yeah,
hate
I don't touch that
PvP.
either.
I hate PvP and everything of its essence. It just, but that's another topic for another day. But people would go in there and they would kill my friends or my family, and then I'd ask them why. They go, well, I'm bored. Then play a fucking different game. And that would be my same thing to Skyrim players that have
I don't
thousands
feel
of,
like that really relates though,
and I
because
no, I'm
that's
like I was saying to Skyrim.
actual harassment though.
With Skyrim, I would say a similar thing. Go play a different game, or if you're like, well, I don't like other games. I like another game like Skyrim. Then play Morrowind, play Arena, play Daggerfall.
But it's not
There's
the same.
It is
What about
almost the same. There's a
no, no, no,
whole
no, no.
lore. There's
There's
a
a
whole
whole different
story.
vibe in each of those games. And I would say that what is so wrong with adding some more spice onto a bland dish?
Well, my argument is that like, why are you eating the same dish every day?
Because it's a good dish, but we can only have it
Apparently
so many
not. If
times.
you got to spice it up. At some point, when you say it's no longer good and I got to change it, that's because you've lost. It's time to move on. It's time to play something different. It's time to eat something different. I've done that from one time where I ate like pizza for like 3 weeks in a row, every day, like 3 times a day.
But at the same time, isn't that kind of inefficient? If all it takes is a little spice,
And instead of adding like that Parmesan cheese or that pepper,
I'm just
when I got
saying,
done with it,
look,
I simply just went to a different food.
when I first played Skyrim, it was Legendary Edition on the Xbox 360. So you know what that means? It was all the DLC. It was the definitive version of the game at the time, and it was certainly as hell was not modded. I got hundreds of hours out of that. Now I come over the PC. I've played Skyrim more, and I gotta tell you, after doing that for so long, it's nice to have even more game time out of it. Just
But
adding
it's
a
not
few mods
Skyrim.
here and there.
It's not Skyrim at that point because you
It
changed
feels
it. You're using the Skyrim engine, but if you even change a little bit, even having an iron sword doing 2 damage to 3 damage, you have changed it where it's no longer the Skyrim that's supposed to be. That it is no longer that Skyrim. I've seen people now. I have someone sent me a mod list before, and I kind of looked at it, and it added capes, it added fur gear, it added Roman bandit hordes, it added like temperature things, it added
okay. What's wrong
food.
with the realism mod? Oh
Uh,
wait, because it changes the core, right? Sorry.
yeah, it's like that's not Skyrim. You're missing the point on a modification is changing the game. Then it's no longer that game. It's this game with a mod, but it's no longer Skyrim. Just Skyrim. That's what I'm saying. If you're bored of just Skyrim, get the DLCs. If you're tired of DLCs, then take a break. You don't have to quit the game forever. But there's other games out there. I hear a lot of people go from Skyrim and they'll go hang out on the Elder Scrolls Online for a bit, because it matches up. The gameplay matches up enough where they're not having to change too much on what they do, and then they'll
Now,
come back.
that's not quite correct either, because Elder Scrolls Online is very different gameplay
I'm just going
terms.
by what people said, not personal. But
Generally, people who go over to Elder Scrolls Online, I've heard, are more there because they love the Elder Scrolls universe.
I mean, I'm what you call a lore whore.
Or
You could literally ask me anything about lore, and I could answer it.
also, and they enjoy MMO style gameplay, but they have changed it to a more traditional MMO like Lord of the Rings Online, with more of that, like, targeted enemy, and your character will like auto attack and shit and all that, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean,
Instead of Skyrim's more reactive, 1v1 like melee brawls and everything.
and I guess I can also play. I'll say devil's advocate again against myself because if you look it through the eyes of an original fan that say they played Arena, right? Say
Mm-hmm.
your very first game, mine was like Morrowind, but say your very first game was Arena, and I could feel with these people, and you have a game that has a huge expanse of lore, and then you sit there and you invest a lot of time in this character, in the lore, in the world, and you try to find your place in it as, all right, say I'm kind of like a thief. All right, I kind of feel in this character. I really like it. And then you learn the mechanics of the dice rolls and what stats level so you can always get a hit in. And then they bring out Daggerfall, and it's even better than Arena, and you have even more options with more people to join. You're like, all right, this is amazing. I can get more weapons. The wizards, they get more magic. The warriors, they get more armor. And then you go up to Morrowind, and then all of a sudden you don't have that many more guilds to join. Instead of these 30 or 40 guilds you're trying to join, you got like 5 or 6. And then
That's what I kind of found funny about the progression of graphics technology. All of a sudden, it was more resource intensive, so they actually had to cut back on content.
And then, I mean, they had no reason to cut back because it was on the PC as well, and the PCs were only getting better since the DOS era. In fact, you could add more. And then,
Yeah, but at the
and
time
then
of
you had
release and all
Morrowind that
that,
people that's like me that joined theirs like, all right, well, I'm used to throwing weapons, shurikens, jumping high, jumping on buildings and throwing shuriken down like a ninja, killing people. I'm used to, that hit and miss mechanic. I don't have to sit there and wiggle. I just got to know I got to level this stat, and I can hit. And I'll give you an argument later for people that say, well, Morrowind's too hard because of the hit mechanic. Do you know how you fix that hit mechanic? You level up. You play the game, and it goes away. Anyway, and then you go to Oblivion, and now there's even less. There's even less guilds to join. There's even less weapons in the game, and then they consolidate even more skills. Instead of you having a list of 50 skills, now you have a list of 10. And it's like, wait a minute, I went from I could really hyper tweak this character to have like such little niche things like silent picklocking and light footed, and they're kind of with the mages, and now to the point where
I
uh
will say that
long
Morrowind
blades
was really fun.
blades were now both long and short. So that means that my thief character that uses that dagger is also good at a claymore, just because they put blades into the same category. And then you got Skyrim that say, okay, well, now we're going to take out all the stats. Now you
I
don't have
think we're getting
strength.
way off track of mods here.
Yeah, we are, but it'll come down to the console. I'm trying to prove a point saying people that had that original stuff didn't want it to change. And my devil advocate to that was they kind of needed a wider audience. I understand that because the small fan base that did dedicate that time and was fans of them probably couldn't support them for very long.
I
It
will say that,
it
honestly,
did because they made a
Morrowind is
part two.
pretty fantastic in terms of RPGs. The only mods I actually have installed right now are time savers. One that lets me fast travel from any signpost, one that just increases run speed a little bit, and another one which gives me a little bit of magicka regen. That is it.
Yeah, I mean, even that, I'd say like, well, if you can't find stuff to level up your magic regen in game, which they have it,
No,
then you're doing
dude,
it
I'll
wrong.
look. Let me give my view here.
All right, go ahead.
I'm not doing it wrong. It's just extremely excruciating to have to deal with all that, especially early game. It really kills wanting to do any kind of magic stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a time thing. And look, not everyone's going to have time to be a... Okay, I'm going to stop myself. No, I'm not. Not everyone has time to be a dude who spends all their time in their underwear playing Morrowind, okay? Some people want to get straight into the meaty goodness of the game. And a
I'll
lot of
have
the
you
meaty
know,
goodness
sometimes I play
is the
without a shirt
exploration.
too. Just to let you know, sometimes I do it without a shirt too. But wasn't that one of my arguments? If you don't have time for games, then don't play them. Watch them instead.
No, that's not fair. Because what if you want to get into Morrowind, but you can't constantly do all this waiting around shit? What if you don't want to walk like you literally just got out of a prison sentence and you've been sitting in a cell for 10 years?
Because it's like, well, this is the game right here, and you're wanting to change the core game to suit your needs instead of actually
Not
taking
even
time to get better at
Not
it.
even the core game. Just speed things up. Just speed up your walk speed a little.
You know, well, if you're talking about now Skyrim, I don't know. But
Now, I'm also talking about this mod is also balanced. It also scales all the other NPCs too, so you can't just start outrunning everybody.
But with Morrowind,
It's
I would
balanced.
simply say, here's a list of things you do. You know, start with this character, get this speed, and then go get the boots of blinding speed. Your speed is literally maxed out at 100. Then since you got the boots of blinding speed, it's now 200. You're 200
Right
times
there.
faster.
Yeah, right there. You're kind of missing the point, though.
That's
You have to
that's
fucking
me.
meta game before you even get into the game.
Well, you don't have
Where?
to.
Yes, you do. You literally just gave me like a walkthrough there.
But that's
What
I'm
about
saying.
someone who just wants to make a character and start wandering around and have to cut out the middlemen of 5 minutes instead of make it 3
Because
minutes?
Morrowind was the intention of that was to walk the roads, to meet the NPCs,
You still do,
and
just a
all
little
that.
bit faster.
And because a lot of people have the same thing about fast travel when it came of Oblivion, and the core argument was then don't use it. But
No. I'm not
everybody
even
started
saying
using it.
no. What I'm saying here is a mod that does not cut anything out. It makes you move a little bit faster, meaning you get from point A to point B. You still travel the distance, but you get there a little sooner, saving you a little bit of time and making exploration a bit more encouraged.
Now, if you're asking like, would I use such a mod? No, not even me.
I know you wouldn't. I was not asking you.
Now, if you're asking, would I recommend that to other people? I mean, like I said, I'm pretty hateful when it comes to that thing. It may be unnecessarily hateful, but I would still stand by the stance that if you do not have the time, then don't do it.
How is that fair, though? Because if someone's
But
interested in
it's
this,
nobody's forcing you to play it though. That's what you're not. It's not about fairness. It's
but
like
that
play a game
I
that you
don't know,
can afford.
man. I don't know, man. That's a little bit toxic.
I mean, but I don't tell anybody that. That's just my personal thing. If people ask me about mods, like check out Zuko's list because he does a mod list for every Elder Scroll game, even ones for the cell phone. And he's like, well, here's ones that make the models better. Here's ones that will reduce the walk times. Now this one will make it where the armors don't clash anymore. It's more not changing the core gameplay so much as it is.
What
Let me
is
fix.
your opinion on aesthetic mods that literally just touch up graphics? And
Uh,
not even like change graphics, but literally just like upscale things.
like I can't think what it's called. I'd have to look at my Nexus mods. There was one time I used it once, and I can't think what it's called. It's like Skyrim Clutter or something.
There's this one pack I have installed in Morrowind, and it's literally just an AI upscaled pack of textures. And it's just the same textures, but they ran it through an AI to make it more clean.
See, now, when it comes to that, I was like, well, at that point, the developers just need to do a re-release on it on modern systems.
They're probably not going to, and
No,
you can
they're not.
download this right now. What's the problem with that?
Now, when you come to something like that, I'm like, all right, if you're having a problem looking at graphics, I can understand that older games have bad graphics. On that, I could kind of, me personally, won't use. But if they did ask me for recommend, I'd say, well, yes, use texture mods so that way it's easier for you to look at. Because at the time when I first played Morrowind, that was top of the line.
To me personally, I think Morrowind is fantastic the way it looks.
It is, but it's still it's still great, but it's still ugly as sin. It
That's honestly kind of why I love it. Like, it's very, the graphics are so dated, and I love it.
Yeah, and mods that say change the aesthetics of it. Uh, there was one that was official, and I cannot think of it in Morrowind, but they changed something on it. And since the devs did it, I automatically accepted it as that's fine. I don't mind it. But like, there's a official DLC for Morrowind that changes the music and sounds that play when you're inside of a swamp. That's literally the only thing that it does. It adds a couple new songs and adds like crickets and ambience. Now, if a player did the same thing,
Wasn't that an official one?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was an official one. Now, if a player did the exact same thing with the same music and sound, I would not use it. I would refuse to, because it's not something the developers expected to be in their world and in their game. So it's not intended.
All right, we've been avoiding the naked lady in the room for long enough. What about all these mods, which are usually the top download of all time every time you go to Nexus and go to buy popular all time? What do you think about the mods that literally just make the women fully naked?
I use them every time. I admit it.
Yes, nothing gets me going like the low poly Morrowind titty.
No, you assume that I play Morrowind all the time. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. There's one time that I was convinced by the people around me. They said, "Hey, just give it a try. You know, you don't know until you try. You're just so lore heavy and so purist that you're kind of blinded by it." And I was like, "All right, whatever." And they said, "All right, so let's look at the mods." And I got a camping one that added like where you can camp anywhere. I added a temperature one where if you didn't wear enough clothing in a certain area, you'd get too cold or too hot. Um, I did another mod that you were required to do food, and then I added that nudity mod because it just they said, well, just add realism, you know. And I was like, okay, whatever. It gives
I
me
gotta
a
tell you,
and it gives me a
one
reason to
time.
play females, you know. And then there was a couple others I added, and I played it, and they said, give it like 3 hours, and I was like, all right. And I sat there and I played modded Skyrim for about 2 or 3 hours. And later they texted me and they said, "What do you think?" And I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "What do you think of the mods?" And I said, "I think I was not playing Skyrim. I was playing a game I jumbled together with a bunch of different Frankenstein patchwork. Is what I feel like. I wasn't looking at it like I was playing Skyrim. I was looking at it like I did some self-made survival game." And that's what I had to look at it as.
Here's what I see. I think like this is my big thing when I see these things. When I see a game that, like, Bethesda pretty much actively encourages modding of their game. They include modding tools.
Yeah.
And you look at games that have like a mod modding, like Valheim. Valheim has a pretty big modding base. All of Bethesda's games have all of Bethesda's own games, not like, Dishonored, which they own the IP but was developed by a different studio.
Yeah.
All of Bethesda's of their own games modded. Terraria modding.
Minecraft.
Minecraft, yes. What was the other one I was going to say? Crap. I forgot. But my point is, like, these games are inherently, yeah, the Bethesda's games do follow a story, but they are also meant to be, in a way, a sandbox. They're meant to be a bit of your own thing, too.
Which,
So what's wrong with having some mods that makes it a little bit more personal to you?
because it's outside the sandbox.
No, it's not particularly. What's
Mods
wrong with bringing some toys to a sandbox?
mods are outside the simulation. If you're going to say Skyrim is a simulation, but if you bring a hot coffee from Starbucks into Skyrim, then it's outside the simulation. It may be a mod, but it's not from Skyrim. Now, some of the things like texture updates, like 4K texture updates, fine, whatever. There's an official mod for that. I'll use that. I don't have to use a fan made one. Well, what about the patches that cure fix bugs? I suppose if there's any game breaking bugs, yes, that needs to be addressed, and if the devs don't do it, you know, one of the fans do it, I suppose so. But when you start saying, well, I'm going to add fur armor and capes and helmets and guns and crossbows and shurikens and samurai swords and the Buster Sword. You're
You're a
missing
motherfucker who plays Vanilla Gary's mod, don't you?
uh,
No add-ons.
yes, I do. In fact, play vanilla. Anyway, anyway, and then you're you're bringing outside information into a game, not using the information in the game to build your sandbox. That's what I'm saying.
Is that the true cardinal sin to you?
Yes, it is. If you now see now people that mod like you, I have no hate for, and like I said at the beginning, your
I will.
game, your
My
rules.
thing. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I will also never judge anyone else how they want to play.
I do not judge them
I
for
do
it,
also, at the same time,
but it
I
doesn't
want to
mean
pick your
I have to
brain. I
do
want
it.
to know how you think,
Just because you mod it doesn't mean that I will. Now,
and I will never force you to.
if I go play Blood, I'm going to say 100%. I'm going to play the original DOS version. That's
And then I'll help you because I've played through that too, and it's really fucking cool.
and that's how I want to experience it. And if I'm like, all right, well, I'm done with Blood, I simply play something else. There is quintillions of games out there that I could play.
Yes, but
I don't have to drag
here's
my
the
ideas
big
into
thing.
somebody else's
Here's the
IP.
thing I'm trying to get to. Here's the big thing on my side. There are plenty of games like there's plenty of boomer shooters, but there are none like Blood. Like there are none that have that vibe.
Ever
There are
played
none that
Heretic?
have that same style. You could argue Dusk, but it doesn't have that same edge. It doesn't have that humor.
Is Dusk the one with that Chinese guy?
No, you're thinking of Shadow Warrior. I'm talking about
Yeah.
the closest thing I can think to in like art style is the more recent Dusk. It was made by New Blood. It's like it's a retro shooter that was made on Unity, so it's not. It looks retro, but it isn't. My point is that it's similar in some ways, but only Blood has that style. So why can't I get more time from modding it and giving it some fresh life? A fresh supply of blood.
Because you've done it. I mean, games are meant to be completed. That's the game. Games in their essence is a challenge that you overcome. If you overcome a challenge, you're good, man. You've done it. Yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination, but you're there. It's like, say somebody broke into your house and they didn't bring a gun. Are you going to throw a gun at them just to make it a little bit different? No. You're not going to do anything like that. You're going to take them down, call the cops, and be done with it. And when it's over, you're not going to break them out of jail and bring them back and say, now try it again, but this time use the shotgun instead of that knife that you had. You're not going to do that shit.
Look, your analogy is actually pretty spot on, but just how insane the scenario is.
I'm glad you like it, but that's how I feel about it. It's like you're not going to go break somebody out of jail after they sit there and broke into your house and bring them back and say, now try this weapon and let me go grab this weapon and let me wear this and you wear that and see how it turns out differently. No. Once you get through that such a event, such a quest or such a dramatic event,
So
that is your
in
reward.
the
You
moment
are
kind
done
of
with it.
guy.
Say that again.
So you're an in the moment kind of guy. Like you'll take the experience you have and you'll just revel in it.
Yeah, just like
You do not think about beyond it. You just live in the moment.
it's like, yeah, every little moment counts in this world. It's like, hey, it's my time. I should live it.
So when you play Morrowind, you're just living that moment in Morrowind.
Yeah, it's like, this is my thief person, and that's all that this person will do. And once that thief person beats the boss, gets head of the Thieves Guild, I don't play it anymore. I don't just delete it, and I might step back on it every once in a while, but my satisfaction is knowing I got to the top of that Thieves Guild quest line. I did every little quest. I got all the little trinkets. She's quote unquote a god now of stealth. I simply just load up a wizard. I was like, now let me do a wizard playthrough. Let me do a warrior playthrough. Let me do an archer playthrough. Let me do a monk playthrough. That's why they have so many classes. And for people that, so you say, the Skyrim that don't have classes, against another negative for it. I'm like, well, I do the same thing. It's just super, super, super limited.
that's actually pretty admirable.
And even though it's so limited, you're like, well, would you ever add mods to add role playing to it? And I'm like, if you're having to add mods to put role playing in the role playing game, you done shit your pants. You've already done the game's already not what you're looking for. I gave
What's your argument for this game is good, but with a little tweak, it's even better?
then that's when you say, hey devs, this is what's up. And
But a lot of the time they don't,
and if
and
they
that really
don't, then you like sad. Just
and
it,
that's not particularly a case of they wouldn't add. It's just because they just won't fucking do it. Like they would add it, but they won't do it.
okay. So let's look at it two ways. Are you saying let's look at it in a way that they refuse to, even though they agree that it's a good idea. Let's look
Like,
at that way. Then
let me try breaking down like really quickly for simplicity terms. Like, it's a case of like we're done with development, we're not touching it. Yeah, it's a shame we didn't add that, but we're not coming back to development. That's the scenario.
then you simply say, then I just have to simply have what I have. Use what I have to my best ability because this is the story that I got. If I add or take away anything, then I'm changing the story in its essence, even if it's little bitty numbers or adding an extra cave here or taking away this cave or even fixing a bug because there's some stuff that I don't even want to change a bug on that I'm aware that it's a bug, but that's the charm of the game and of the story and of its time. Yeah, bugs aren't good, but sometimes
I can tell you this: you can mod whatever you want out of Skyrim. You're always going to have a unique experience with the bugs.
yeah, like
You can
let me
mod
put it
it. You
this way,
cannot
like the
mod it.
giants.
Skyrim will mod itself for you with a whole unique range of bugs every playthrough.
Yeah, and like let me say it like this: the giants hitting you and launching you into space. It still
Oh,
happens, right?
never touch that. Never touch that. That's part of the experience, man.
Exactly. And I see the base game as the strongly as you see that giant thing, I see the base game. Never touch it because this was the story presented to me and the tools within your system in your sandbox I used. I conquered your challenge. I am done with it. You lose. I have won. And that's just how I feel about video games. Is That's why Kenshi is so special to me because there is no way to beat it. You cannot beat it. Same with Project Zomboid. You
Same
can
with
not
Mountain
beat it.
Blade, too. It's meant to be a sandbox RPG. Like, you take the game, you make your character, and you exist in that world.
Well, Mountain Blade, if you're thinking about the Army Simulation one, I beat that one. I beat the first one, the second one, and Vikings. I haven't played the new one that much, so I don't know if they took that out. But I'm pretty sure if you conquer all the lands, you win.
Not technically, though. The game does not end there.
I mean, then hey, that's lovely. At that point, I was like, hey, then I want to see what I want to be kind of float. Let me see if I can kind of hold my kingdom together for a bit. But if you ever added a mod, say, well, I'm going to add where you always have a companion with you, always have a pet dog, even if it doesn't do anything,
They
it's always with you.
actually Now, this actually segues into something I want to talk about. We need to get out of these. We're still talking about the small fries here. Now we need to talk about the big ones, okay? This is the shit, especially in Mountain Blade. I'm talking total conversion overhauls. What do
Okay,
you think about people who make basically
I
their
got an
own game
argument.
using a base
I
of
actually
another game?
lose this fight. I actually lose this argument, believe it or not. I don't know if it's official, but I think Mountain Blade uh, Viking Conquest was a mod, if I'm not incorrect, a mod of Warband, and it was all fan made, strictly by fans, and then they just kind of made it official. Sad to say that I prefer that fan mod, the Vikings, over the uh, Warband, but it's not because it was a great mod. It's just because I like the Viking lifestyle.
Hmm.
So that one I can't really say too much on because that changed the whole story. It just used the models in the game, but it gave you a whole different story with a storyline and weapons and armor and all that. It was just I'm pretty sure Viking Conquest was just a mod. a fan made mod. I'm like 90% sure. I'd have to look that up. And if it is official, then whew, I can hold on to my crown. But if not, then I just got to say, hey, I'm not gonna lie to people and say no. I never, 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 never. Sometimes I find myself doing it. And something.
Okay, I'm not talking about the official ones though. Like Mountain Blade is a particular big one because you know what? I actually don't know why. Just Mountain Blade has a really big modding community for some reason, and Warband, Mountain Blade Warband, has shit tons of full overhauls that literally change the game into a new one.
That's what I said with Viking Conquest. That's what that was. It
No, no,
changed
no.
the
But that
game.
one was officially picked up. Like, what's your opinion on ones that are still not official?
Hmm. That one's a little bit tougher because, like I said, I did Vikings, but say that it wasn't picked up and they did a different error.
Like,
Um,
there's this one that, of course, because the Star Wars, the Force is strong with the Star Wars fans. There's
I
this
hate
one
it.
that changes Mountain Blade Warband to a giant Star Wars simulator.
Then play
Changes
Battlefront.
every single graphic. No. Battlefront's a war simulator. This version is basically Mountain Blade's gameplay but it's entirely Star Wars.
Play Star Wars.
I'm
Hey,
talking like traveling to planets, bartering, being whatever character you want to be, allying with either side of the war.
kind of like Old Republic.
Is
Hmm.
that your only answer?
No, my answer would be then play Star Wars, but don't.
You can't just play Star Wars. There's a lot of different genres of games in there, dude.
Well, what I think is that developers need to take a more, I wouldn't say more, but a different look at their IPs.
Okay, wait, quick B side here. I One of the most popular mods in the Warband Steam Workshop is one that's apparently entirely based around the Toho series. Toho,
Oh yeah, Toho, yeah, yeah.
and it was
Little
just like,
girls
wait,
in
yeah,
shooting
it's a
airplanes.
full conversion, changes every graphic, every model. It's just like, huh, that's neat. What?
My thing is like, but play Toho. Why do you bring Toho into Mountain Blade? That's like, but and then I'd say don't bring Mountain Blade into Toho either. Leave Toho alone. Leave Mountain Blade alone. Just play the game as it's intended, man. Just take the story. If you already done the story, then that's the point of it. You did it. It's done. Walk
Here's the
on.
thing, though. Humans have a very big history of taking things from other people, adding their own thing to it. I mean, look at this massive thing of fan fiction and fan works, mods. I mean, basically, Dante's Inferno is basically one of the most famous works of fan fiction.
Yeah. You know, what was the question?
Team Fortress 2 is a mod.
Well, it was until it became its own thing. But then instead of it fans doing it,
It's no, the thing still has code from Half-Life in there. What about Gary's mod, actually? That's a very interesting one.
oh,
It's literally called Gary's mod.
well, see, they put that out there to say this is about friends making, doing their things and seeing what they can create.
This
That
is the big one. This is the big paradox. What about a game that is literally made to be modded?
then my answer would be if you play that game, then you need to mod it. Don't play it unmodded. If it's intention by the developers to say we will not,
Aha, I have trapped you. You said you play vanilla Gary's mod.
I do,
You dirty liar.
I do, I do
But
play it.
Gary's mod is one of those games that's meant to be modded.
And
You dirty,
and I
you
also have
bad
done it.
boy.
I admit it. I got My Little Pony modded in there. If you look at my mod list, I do have it now. At first, I did it just vanilla, and the problem was I didn't understand the concept of it. I was like, "Fuck, what am I doing here? Spawning these soldiers in here and then just shooting them with a couple of Half-Life guns. What's the point? I'm missing it. Markiplier has fun. PewDiePie has fun. What am I doing wrong?" Until I looked it up. It's like, oh, you're supposed to add your own game to it. Okay. And that's when I went and got over 256 mods for it.
Geez, I haven't checked my mod list in a while, but it's up there too.
Nope, I lied. It says here I got 2,832.
Jesus!
So, and I took it to heart as this game is not meant to play vanilla. It's meant to play modded. It's meant to build your own game with it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to download all the mods. So, but Skyrim was not released to the public. Say it's only meant to be modded. You have the option, but it's not meant strictly to be modded like Gary's mod. So, given the choice, I'm like, no, I don't. I refuse. I just want your story that you was meant to tell. I played it, through 3 or 4 different versions. It's your fault it's limited. I hate Bethesda because of it, but it's not the fans' place, and it's not my place to make your game better because you was inept or trying to streamline it. If people have to mod it because it's missing something, tell Bethesda and say, stop mainstreaming these games and put back what made the game magical in the first place, which is min-maxing and leveling certain characteristics of a character. Because if you try to do that now on Skyrim, if I was to say I'm a thief, more than likely you'd see an orc crouched down there in the corner. Why? Because no longer does a character matter in that game. Used to, they used to have a little bit of starter stat differences, but not much anymore. Like a high elf would have like 10 or 20 extra magicka at level 1. Instead of 100,
Yeah.
100, 100, they got 90, 110, and 100. And the orc would be like 110 with a little bit less magic, stuff like that. But in the past, they would actually have deeper stats. Like if I played the Khajiit, they would be good at lock picking, stealth, you know, short blade, marksman, what you think a thief would be. But when it comes to like Skyrim, a player, botting like that is the developers' way to say, we'll give you a little bit, and now it's your job to play the game to make our game better, so you can enjoy and play
Bethesda
it.
is very dirty with that. They basically do release a shell of a game now and say, hey, you guys can make it what you want to be. We're letting you do that. We're such good people.
Now with Gary's mod, they're at least they're upfront about it. It's like, hey, no, this game is about adding things to it and see what happens. That's quite literally the only thing the game is meant to do. All right, that's fine. Then I'm going to do all the mods because that's what you're meant to do. But when it comes to Skyrim, they had that Skyrim based in
you,
the.
you have 2 terabytes of Gary's mod on your computer.
That's why I can't play it because I don't have enough space on my computer to play it. All
Yeah,
right,
I
so
will say that
I've been talking for
one
a
of the
while,
things.
so I'm going to let you just start thinking what you think about, the mods from, about Blood, from kind of where we started. Just give all your positives because I don't want people just to say, well, we brought onto the show only for
Well,
hear
it's
him.
real kind of you now. How long has it been? A half hour of you saying how much you hate mods. Real kind of you to let me in on the conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so my thing is that here's why I think mods are fantastic. Why they are actually one of the big things that makes PC gaming, and now thankfully a little bit of console gaming with Bethesda's initiative, but I'm not giving them too much credit. Um, is because not only does it allow you to, like, you can take an old game, you can take a new game, and you can give it a facelift. You can change something that bothered you in an otherwise perfect game for you. You can make a game you didn't like at all into something you absolutely love. You can build a community around people who just like to screw around and see what happens. There's these incredible mods, like me and my girlfriend played Skyrim together, which does nothing except add multiplayer. And that's absolutely amazing to me. Like, the possibilities are endless. You can take a game as a base and turn it into literally anything without having to start from complete scratch.
Uh, my devil's advocate on that would be play Gary's mod. But I do have a story about that. Like Kenshi, right? It has mods, and I thought about making a mod, and then I also was like, I wonder if we could do co-op because I wanted to play with my significant other, and they said no, and the system cannot the engine that they used cannot sustain multiplayer because of the way that they coded the game. They'd have to rebuild the whole game from scratch, and no mod developer is going to be willing to do that. And even the modders that are doing it now say, yeah, we just refuse to do co-op. And that,
I mean,
believe
they
it or not,
fucking made a multiplayer engine from Morrowind.
I mean, and that right there, believe it or not, actually kind of heartbroke me a little bit. It's like, man, you know, surely I could, have her at the base training the guys while I'm off on stealth mission robbing these ruins and getting the technology while she's kind of managing the base.
And you know what I'll say to that? Just play Conan Exiles.
We do. We do have that, by the way.
I'm teasing you.
But it's time for me to ask questions for you. Can you like, well, what do you think on this and that? Let me do the same thing to you.
Yeah.
You're currently working on the game. I don't know if you want to announce it to everybody or.
I'm working on a game.
Okay, so you're working on a game. I have no other details. You can tell me later, but I'm just gonna pretend that you're using RPG Maker. You may not
It's
be.
something similar, and
Uh,
it's easy enough to get into.
okay, it's probably Wolf Engine, then. But
Yeah.
okay, say you're using. Okay, you're working on this game, and it's important to you, is it not?
It's very important to me, yes.
All right, so that's why I was like, hey, heads up, he's working on the game. A little bit of advertisement for you because you have something to say and you want to share it in the form of a game. Now, say somebody downloads that game and without ever even turning it on or installing it, they immediately start modding it. How would that make you feel?
I would say that would be very strange, but again,
And
they paid
never
money.
and never gave your game a chance because you're not making a game just for the money of it, are you?
I am literally making this because I had a story that I really wanted to tell.
And then how would you feel if me as your friend said, "Hey, I downloaded your game. What'd you think?" "Oh, I never played your actual game. I downloaded it and changed some files on it and changed what the character said and then kind of made my own thing out of it." You'd be like, "Well, why not just make your own game if you're going to do that? Why would you want to download something that I worked very hard for and I want to tell a story and you changed it?" Now, not saying that everybody does that with mods. I'm pretty sure nobody did that with Skyrim when it first released because there probably wasn't no mods. But I'm just saying because since Wolf Engine is older, people do know how to mod. Or say they got in there and they immediately just stole your art assets and say, well, we was kind of here for the art assets. We didn't really play the game. Bye. You know, wouldn't that?
Well, actually, in that case, I would actually have to do some legal shit because a lot of the stuff here is original. You cannot just fucking take that.
But on a personal feelings like level, you'd be like, that's not very cool. Not that Bethesda has feelings in that. I'm just using you as an example that just because it can doesn't mean it should. You know, you have a
I would
story to
say
tell
that
me,
if
and
I would say that a lot of mods. Look, here's the big thing, though. You're missing the part where look, all the games that have mods that are popular for modding are games that are loved in the first place. People loved the game as it is a game. Mods spring up when people want to add to these games that they love.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, I would be honored if people started modding and looking through my game. Because they actually genuinely cared enough to look through what I made and try learning how it works, how it ticks, adding their own little bits to it.
All right. Everybody's different. And like I said at the beginning, I don't diss people that do mods. You know, because I'm not
I'm just
100% innocent of
I've
it.
noticed the pattern. Like people don't play. What was the one I saw on Steam recently? Good old Steam. People don't play like have sex with Hitler, and a modding community does not pop up around that. These
Yeah,
games, these games don't really do it. Only the games that really genuinely are loved really get mods.
I'm not saying that people are doing it because they hate the game. That's not what I'm saying.
Generally, if someone hates the game, they're not going to spend the time modding it.
Yeah.
Personally, to me, it would be an honor if people actually really started to do modding.
But you'd also want them to experience at least the base one, right?
Of course.
I mean, what do you feel if somebody said, "Well, I didn't download your game for the story. I just wanted it because I was modding these files, and I just wanted to change it into something over here." And wouldn't that throw you off a little bit? Like, my
It
game
would
isn't.
be I would be a little bit off put, but I would appreciate the fact that you thought my game was worthy enough that you wanted to use it as a base.
Yeah, I mean, I guess using your personal game probably wasn't the best thing, but it's the only thing I could think of.
No, it's fair, but this is just how I work, because if you're really going to come in that, like, Wolf RPG Editor is basically a modding engine as it is. It's a game it's an engine that starts with, like, some base systems and you tweak it around. The engine itself is kind of meant for modding. Like, I knew what I was getting into when I started to learn this engine.
Yeah,
It's even when you pack it and encrypt it, there is such like an easy tool that'll automatically just like rip the whole fucking thing. And it's just like, I know what I'm getting into with this, but I'm hoping that people will genuinely enjoy my game. Because how does it all start? They play the game first.
yeah.
They always have to play the game first, because when it gets first released, there
So
are no mods.
my counter to that is, what do you think about the YouTubers that say, for people that, all right, so you want to get into Skyrim and you never played it before. Well, first thing you got to do is get this mod, and then change this over here, and then get this graphics mod, and then go over here and get this mod that changed the stats of the bandits. Then you need to go get this mod so that way you can do this.
That actually brings me to a topic that we have not gotten to yet, and I will say on to that note, you're immediately doing it wrong. When it comes to something like Skyrim, you definitely want to try the base game first to see if it's fun. If it needs some tweaks, tweak it a little. But you definitely want to know if the game itself, as it is worth your time.
Yeah.
Now, this actually reminds me, this is something you said you wanted to talk about before we even started recording.
Yeah.
Fan patches.
Fan patches.
I've been playing Fallout 2 recently from GOG, and that actually comes with fan patches.
Mm-hmm.
Most notably S-Fall, which tweaks the game to behave a little better on modern systems, widescreen and all that.
All right, so my thought on that
What do you
is,
feel about fan patches whose whole goal is to fix some bugs that happen when playing an older game on a modern system?
let's say you added a mod, a patch. Got to start saying patch now. You added a patch made by a fan that simply made it where it can run in widescreen. All right, whatever. But there's a problem with some games like that because I've done that with a few games before, like some RPG Maker games where it was not wide full screen. And the second I did change it to full widescreen, all of a sudden I could see the other part of the map that was usually set in darkness because it was a horror game. Now I could see the rest of the map where all the jump scares were to occur, and it ruined the game.
Now, in that case, I would definitely say that is a broken patch and you should not use it.
But I mean, that's just how the game was built. It was not built to ever run in widescreen. It just, that's how the guy did the mapping. He just didn't consider widescreen. He considered everybody to play at certain resolution.
You see that a lot. Like if you run like if you get like a source port of say I don't know, this is a horrible example because everyone hated the game, but Witch Haven, made by Capstone, is one of those old DOS like first person games.
Yeah, I know it.
And it's the animations were not made for widescreen. So if you make it widescreen, all of a sudden you'll see clipping on the animations, like half of your hand will disappear when you swing your sword.
Yeah. In that case, it's bad. Don't do it. The game is not intended for that. Sucks to be you. Play it just the way it's meant to be played. If you say something like, let me see here, System Shock, that's another one that would be negative because the mouse movement makes combat easier, and
That's not a fan patch though. That was officially a thing.
No, that's a fan patch because I watched a Mandalorian gaming on it, and he talked about it. It's a fan thing done by a group of people that's dedicated to doing specifically patches for System Shock 1 and 2. That's all they do, and it's not done by the developers. It's done only by a group of fans. If you watch the Mandalorian episode on System Shock, he'll explain it to you. He showed the website and everything. Nope, it's just fans doing that. And GOG, and I've noticed they've been doing this recently, and I'm beginning to dislike them ever more. They're starting to find random fan patches and implement it in the game. Like what you
Uh,
said with Fallout 2, I wouldn't allow that.
yeah,
If I wouldn't
that
buy
is a
the
little bit weird. Like, did you know that they actually pre-patched their installations of Fallout New Vegas with the 4 GB patch?
yeah, I mean, usually whenever I do
And,
that, I immediately go
and
find a
as
way
you
to get rid
know,
of it.
as anyone would know who has actually dealt with New Vegas before, the 4 GB patch is a fan-made application which increases, I think, the memory allocation of the Fallout New Vegas executable.
Mm. Oblivion had the same thing.
And it's like, yeah, nice of you to do that, but again, you are
A
giving me like
choice.
an altered thing, which is kind of
You're
strange.
not giving me a choice in the matter at that point. At that point, they're forcing you. No, we know what the game should be like, and it's like this. At that point, you're like, no, you know what you like in the game. That's when I got the definitive edition. Like I said, I immediately wiped it and got the original other one that didn't have the mouse look. And if that one has been fan patched, if I can go through the thing and find it, I'll delete that and I'll just go get the DOS version to know that it hasn't been tampered with. It's just I don't
What
need
about
someone
what
to do
about a
that for me.
small patch? What about one of the things I played? I needed a patch to play GTA Vice City, right? I played GTA Vice City on my
What kind of patch?
PC, and it was a patch which made it work on widescreen. It never had any graphical glitches except occasionally in cutscenes, where like there's a scene where Tommy Vercetti throws his phone after getting some shit, I think, from his mob boss, and the
Yeah.
animations weren't made for that. So the phone, which you're not supposed to see, just freezes in midair. You can see it like at the very corner of the screen. Would you
Yeah.
say that is breaking enough in
Yeah.
that one cutscene?
Absolutely. At that time, you got to realize, all right, yeah, this wasn't really meant for widescreen. But then if you're so determined to use that patch, then you need to get a hold of the dev of the patch and say, hey, look, there's this bug right here. I think that in cutscenes, it needs to go back to the original, and then when it goes back to the gameplay, switch it back to widescreen. That's
Hmm.
that's how you would fix that. If you're so determined, it's like I must alter this game in order to play it. Be the king of it, then I guess.
There's a difference there because a lot of patch modders, people who work on patches, aren't particularly game modders. Like, they don't really work with in-game assets.
Like the Oblivion fan.
Like, say someone made a patch for Oblivion, that would manipulate the executable, maybe some DLL files,
Like
some
the 2 GB to 4 GB patch.
yeah, the 4 GB patch changes something very internal with the executable itself, not just the game data.
Yeah, and then you'd
So
also look
it
out. Well, what's the 4 GB patch for? It's for those that have a lot of mods. So then nope, I don't need it. I don't mod, so it's irrelevant. Is it relevant to the game playing then? No. Someone that never mods could play it and
technically
it
it also
never
does
affect it.
help eliminate some crashes too.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never had it crash, but you know what happens when I did get it to start crashing? When I did the 4 GB patch, it started crashing a lot more after that.
My girlfriend decided to try out the unofficial, the big the big giant fan made patch for Skyrim with like fixes over like
Unofficial
thousands
bug
of
fix.
bugs.
Yeah, I've used that before. Yeah.
And just like she started having all these bugs, crashes, and freezes that I've never seen before. Like, I was like, oh, that usually has a little bug there, and then some other bug would happen. It's like, huh, well, fuck.
Yeah. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go fight this giant, and you're low health. You're like, all right, here I go. I'm gonna go fly to space, and he hits you, and all of a sudden he starts flying. It's like,
Yeah, like,
what?
wait, no.
Yeah, I mean, watch Slimecicle. Watch Slimecicle's VR playthrough of Skyrim. and you would know that that man has a deeper love for mods than you do probably for your own mother. For some reason, but he took
Now, let's not bring my mother into this.
he took so many mods, like a Mario
Okay.
World mod, but he, instead of saying this is how my Skyrim should be played, he said this is a joke. These mods are jokes. This Mario, Waluigi mods, this, Thomas the Tank Engine as airplanes or as dragons is a joke. So what I'm going to do is take them, put them in a video, make fun of them. But if you ask him on the normal, he goes, "I play Skyrim unmodded."
Well, of course. Those mods are meant to be just jokes.
But he doesn't even get patches, fixes, or anything that changes the
Okay,
fur,
what about
armor.
this one? This is one that actually I wanted to bring up, but completely spaced because it's been forever since I played it. So, Far Cry 2.
I've never
Far
really
Cry 2
played, never played the Far
is a
Cries.
pretty game. It doesn't matter. You don't need to have any knowledge about the game itself. What you do need to know is some of the mechanical stuff. Far Cry 2, when did it come out here? Let me check real quick. Came out in 2008, and around that time, like, it was a little iffy on things, especially computer hardware. On more modern hardware, Far Cry 2's doesn't really have a capped frame rate internally. So if you like try opening a door, it won't open. If you try talking to people, you can't talk to people. Animations might stop. There is a fan-made patch where all it does is cap the internal frame rate.
All right, let me kind of get an answer for all that questions. Like, what if? Let me try to eliminate that in one big answer. Say you get a game like Far Cry 2. All right. There's two versions of my thoughts on this. Believe it or not, I have two thoughts. I have my purist thought is then obviously
Okay,
don't play it because it's no longer
no,
meant to be
you
played.
spend money on this.
But
And no, games
if you
are meant
bought
to be played.
but if you buy it recently, say it's on DOG and it comes that way where it's uncapped. Okay? If you bought that game,
I bought it on Steam for viewer reference.
yeah, but say you bought it no matter where and it didn't come pre-patched, right? It was uncapped and you couldn't do anything. Okay, say that, and then you're like, okay, I spent money on this, and I'm at a loss of what to do. You get a hold of the developer, and they're like, well, we don't actively develop that no more, and we don't have no
I mean,
advice
it's
for you.
Ubisoft, so what do you want?
And then you go to GOG, and they say like, hey, look, we just kind of host them. We don't really have patches for that or fixes for that. We're sorry.
Cough, cough, New Vegas, cough, cough.
Yeah, and then that's when you're kind of like, hey, internet, this is what kind of problem I'm having. I found a game. I spent money on it. I really don't have much time because I got to work. But the time I do have, I want to play on this one. But it's giving me an error because it's not meant for modern hardware. My two thoughts are either get older hardware, which is a lot more stupider and harder to do. But that's what I did. I have older hardware. I got a couple of Windows XPs and 3.1s in the shed. So if I ever want to play that game,
Like, that's for sure.
so if I ever want to play those older games, I don't have to worry about that fan stuff. But people ain't gonna do that nowadays. Most people won't do that. Smart people won't do that.
Expensive.
Stupid people like me will. Smart people won't do that. So when you got to that, I understand. Hey, you need help, but you're not changing the gameplay. That kind of
You're
patch.
changing something mechanical.
I mean, you're just kind of capping the frame rate, but you're not changing the game
It is
saying I'm adding a
fine.
gun.
It's fan patch, so it does fit within our conversation.
Yeah, I'm saying something like that at that such an extreme.
It does. Like, this genuinely does break the game to the point where the game that is meant to be played cannot be played.
Yeah, if it's like broken to such an extreme because of modern hardware that it won't even open, then you're
It's
not
that it won't
changing the
open, it's that,
game.
like,
You're just
it's
trying to
that,
get it
like,
to open.
in Far Cry 2, it is pretty egregious because at this point, like, you get into the thing, like, menus work fine because for some reason menus are capped, but gameplay isn't. And so, like, you'll get into the gameplay, you'll choose your character, you'll get right into the thick of things, and then, like, the moment you try opening a door, it's like, nope, 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 can't do that. Can't open the door.
Well, I think what year did you say?
2008.
Yeah, they wouldn't have that back then. I was about to say, if it was an older game, they used to have something called turbo buttons, and when you hit that button, it would actually lower the speed of the processor, so that way it forced the games to cap themselves. But that was back in the 90s and 80s, not 2000s. So, but on something you say, hey, this game has to have this, or it cannot be physically played on modern systems without no exception, then I'd be like, then yeah, do it. I mean, you kind of need to do it. But then if you say, so you use mods, I just don't play Far Cry 2. If I'm that kind of purist, then I don't play it. But other people, I'd say I would warn them like, hey, this may not, even somebody's purist as me, hey, this game may not run good on modern systems. You may want to invest in this capping patch if it doesn't come pre-installed. So that way you can at least play the game. But after that, I'd say, but only that and nothing else.
To be fair, Far Cry 2, whatever engines Ubisoft use don't really support modding anyway.
But you kind of see the difference. Like Skyrim, if say they needed say for some reason we used nano computers in the next year, and Skyrim was still going on, right? And they're like, well, the only
Oh, it
way,
still will be.
and they say, well, the only way you could play this is if you download this patch that makes it, instead of reading C code, it reads D code now.
Yeah.
And the only way you can ever open this game, because it will never open on a quantum computer, and the only way you can open it is if it forces it to read decode. Then I'd say yes, get the patch that does decode, but nothing else at all. Period.
Ooh, dramatic pause and everything.
Yeah, that's my end all to be all. So here's my question to you: why, instead of enjoying blood as it is, why should I get extra crispy? Why would I want to mod anything? Skyrim, Oblivion, doesn't matter. Morrowind, even Kenshi or Project Zomboid. Why would I want to go mod something that I have fun playing it without modding?
Well, here's the big part of my philosophy. You shouldn't then. Because you personally wouldn't enjoy it. My philosophy on mods is do what will make you happy. If a mod will improve your experience with this game, even if it is not what it was originally intended, then do it.
And I agree
Have
with
fun.
that.
You spend money on this. You spend time on this. Have extra fun with it if you can.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not saying what I said is what I think other people should do. I'm saying that's my philosophy. If I don't have the time to learn how to play Gary's mod, don't play it. It's as simple as that. I don't play it. I don't lose sleep over it, money or not. I don't hate over it. I just simply say, hey, I should have reviewed this game. I should have looked it up on YouTube. I should have looked up reviews. I should have done some kind of
That's not
research.
the same, though. Because your argument a while ago was you should just watch gameplay of it.
Yeah.
A lot of games need to be
So what I do?
experienced firsthand. It needs to be a connection between the player and the game itself, not just some third-party middleman thing.
You still watch? Do you ever watch Markiplier? By the way.
I love Mark.
All right. Do you ever watch his 3 Scary Games?
Every now and then.
All right. So.
But those are things where those are horror based.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
some games.
I'm just using it as an example. Now, say you're kind of a fan.
But don't forget, I'm also there for Markiplier too.
Yeah. But would you ever, since you saw all those scary games, would you ever say, well, now I need to experience it by going and playing every single one of them? Now, sometimes
That depends.
Sometimes, now, like he says, like Markiplier says, hey, it's a good game. Definitely download it. Go try it. And he might be right. But there's also sometimes he goes, yeah, it wasn't the best game I ever played. This is this. The devs need some more work on it. I wouldn't download it. Wait until they patch it or whatever. He's pretty good at that sometimes. But instead of me constantly playing scary games, I watch somebody I enjoy, the personality I enjoy, play the game for me. Like Alien, what is that one? Alien Isolation. I heard Markiplier was playing. I was like, oh well, let me play it before I watch it, so that way I could do videos on it. And I did like 10 minutes of it, and I said, I absolutely hate this game and everything about it. So I went right back to Mark and watched him. And I was like, oh, this game is fun. I'm going to go play it. And I played it again. I was like, I absolutely still hate this game. Went right back to Mark and I realized I'm not liking the game anymore. Mark is making it good. So thanks to Mark, I can enjoy that game now. Without playing it, I can watch the story and see what's going on, get the jump scares, and enjoy the gameplay without me having to sit there and suffer because I dislike the game. I don't like every game that I play. That's just
That
a
doesn't
fact.
cover every possible scenario, though.
I mean,
Because, yeah, some people might be terrible at vanilla blood, but they might enjoy the shooter gameplay, but not particularly enjoy the style. So if you're just watching it for, if you're watching it, then you're not getting the gameplay that you're liking.
that on something like that, that's like I can't think of a super hard game right now. Project Zomboid is like really hard, and there's a lot of like I used to play with you know Queen a lot, Kiwi Girl. They changed recently. They changed the forging aspect, and she just refused to play with me. She will not play it with me anymore. She bought that game out of her money for me and her to play, and she flat out refuses to play it because they made a change, and she just hates the change so much. She goes, "I cannot enjoy this game. I do not enjoy it anymore. If they change it back or they make it different, I might invest in playing the game. But for now," she said, "I simply just rather watch you play it." She said, "I can."
So
She said, "I'll
if
watch
there
it."
was a mod that added it right back to the way she liked
It
it,
can't because the way they changed the engine.
yeah, just say that there was, hypothetically.
If it let us do it on multiplayer, I don't know if it let us do it on a multiplayer server, but if it did, I would do that
Hypothetically,
for
it
her. But I'm not doing it for me to change my gameplay. I'm doing it for her so that way I could play a game with her, not so I can enjoy the game. Because I could care less. I like both of
See,
them.
that's another reason why I really love mods, because they're all completely optional. You decide what the changes are. You decide what you want in there and what you don't want in there.
I ain't saying mods are bad. I never said that, by the way, just to anybody
No,
out
I'm
there.
saying that's why I'm saying that's one of the reasons, like one of my positive things of why I love mods.
Yeah. And just so I can clear up with everybody, because everybody's just hearing me seeing negative. If you, even if you're not don't have a job, but if you like go to school and your parents buy you Skyrim, you have a right to mod that in any way you see fit, no matter how stupid or how exaggerated it is. I've seen people with a mod list of over 8,000 things. That's up to you. Do I recommend it? No. I recommend taking the story as is, and if you hate the story, blame Bethesda.
I don't look. I love modding, but maybe not quite that much.
If you're like, well, I don't like the story, well, that's Bethesda's fault. Sorry, that's just
That
the way
really
it
is
is.
Bethesda's fault, and I don't think a mod could save that actually.
Well, there's not enough RPG stuff in it. Well, yeah, you can mod it in, but why are you having to mod it in? Well, because Bethesda took it out, and that's Bethesda's fault, not because it's the game. It's because of Bethesda mainstreaming. But anyway, the positive
Now,
is,
here's why Skyrim's a bit of a special thing for me, because you can feel the potential in there. Like, you can feel the potential for roleplay or more survival or something, because, like, it's the harsh north, frozen over, food is kind of scarce when you're out wandering. You can feel the potential, but it's just, it's not actually there.
yeah. And if people want to play Blood and they're like, hey, but I just simply am not good at first person shooters. My hands, I've been crippled my life. I just cannot compete with such a thing. Then, if you need a handicap, absolutely. I believe that anything that makes games accessible to people, not dumb it down. Because if you're like, well, the only thing this mod does is weaken the enemy so that way people don't have to shoot them 8 times, then I'm like, well, then you're missing the point of the game. Get good. But if you're like, hey, my hands are being crippled, you know, uh, I can't move the mouse as quickly or as long as I used to, so I gotta have something that kind of lowers the difficulty, that makes the enemy slower, so I can keep up with it. That's something different. When I see that, I was like, hey, this guy needs something to help him get into the games. What do I need to do for you to get you into video games? Because I believe everybody deserves to play them. I believe everybody has a right to. And if you need a handicap to be able to do that, then I wouldn't look at it as a mod. I'd look at it as a helper. It's like, hey, this thing helped me play the game. And you say, well, is there any mods like that right now that could do that? No, unless you have. Uh, I guess there's one for me. Like right now, I have like an eyesight problem, so I have to turn off the blue light off my monitor. So when it comes to Skyrim, I have to force it to. I have to like wiggle the code to force it. Hey, turn off that blue light because it hurts my eyes, and then I can't function for very long. You know,
Yeah.
so that's what I have to do with most of the games I'm doing. I'm not modding the game. I'm giving it a handicap so that way I can actually operate the system, operate the game. But changing the controls is different than adding the ability to even use the controls. If there was
Mm.
like a patch that say, hey, when they moved it to the Windows 10, the controls don't work anymore. You can't plug in a controller, the keyboard won't respond, and you added a patch in there to make it where it could use it. That's not that's making you ability to play the game, not changing how it's being played. Now, if you said, well, I added the controllers back and added mouse look, then you did it wrong. Because then you give it something that people weren't looking for. Because some people's like, hey, I just wanted to unlock the keyboard again so I can get back to playing my game. Or I was just trying to get my controller back because I can't use a mouse very well. And
I
then,
just want a big titty elf GF.
yeah. And then instead of Elf, you gave me Santa Claus, Rudolph, and the Elf. And I didn't ask for that. Why? Why would you give me that? You know? So I think when it comes to modding, that everybody should, I think at some point, kind of experiment with the world around them. I think everybody should try to make one that's serious, unless you warn everybody it's a joke or a meme. And then, but also, like when you explain, like you said, play Blood Vanilla first.
I always advocate, look, modding is great and all, but you need to know if you like the game as it is.
But
If you're gonna, you need to enjoy the game first before you even try modding it, because all those mods are built off the base game.
but here's the excuse. Whenever the way you could beat my argument is this way, is by saying, "Hey, why did you add extra crispy? Oh, the game was too hard, and I just didn't want to have to dedicate that much time and getting good at the enemy spawns and all that." Well, then no, you didn't need it. You're just get good, son. But if you said, "Hey, look, I only had one arm because I got shot in the war, or I had an accident, and I could only use my keyboard, so I had to lower the difficulty, and that was still too hard, so I had to get the extra crispy so I could really lower it, and that way I could switch the controls around. They had better mouse look. I could walk like this, and it actually.
Yeah,
And
extra crispy does not really do that.
I'm just giving an example. Say it did, just hypothetically say it did that,
All
and it
right.
and it enabled a person from playing it completely to being able to at least play it, not because it was too hard, it's because it was a limitation of his physicality, his disabilities, what have you. Then yes, I advocate doing that immediately. But
You
and then I'd say, as you get better at it, you think you could go higher. Well, yeah, I've gotten pretty good at it. Take the mod off. Play vanilla. Work your way up to vanilla would be my point then at that rate. But if you're just saying, hey, I've never really played Bud, but I don't want it to be too hard because I don't like hard games, I'm going to get expert. No, you don't need to play Blood then. You need to go play something else that is like Skyrim, that's like easy, and
Dusk, basically.
Dusk. Go play that. That's kind of handed to you if you don't have time. Like, look, I only got a couple hours a day to play out of the day before I have to either go back to work, go to school, watch my kids. Then you pick the wrong hobby. I believe everybody should play games, but I also think you should be smart in what hobbies you pick. If you're absolutely determined to play video games, then you need to play a game that's meant to be enjoyed in very short bursts. Don't
That's not
invest.
exactly right though, because
No, it's not about right or
well,
wrong. I'm saying for
yeah,
time's sake, if you
it's
have
not
limited time,
fair. is what I'm trying to say, because
Well,
everyone is drawn to different things. Like, yeah, Blood's difficulty set me off, but the vibe of the game, the style, the characters,
and
it
that's
drawed
fine.
me back in.
What I'm talking
So
about
I
is people using time as an excuse. Well, I don't have time because I only got a couple hours. I don't have time to get good at Blood. Then you need to play a game that's like played in short bursts, like a game of what is it called?
But
For
now this
Honor.
person comes back
Like,
to you after you tell them then you shouldn't play Blood. But then this person comes back to you and says, "But but I enjoy Blood as a style. I enjoy Blood. I enjoy Blood's storytelling. I enjoy the way it presents itself,
then I
and
tell
no
them,
other game gives that to me."
and I was like, well, if there's here's some my first thing would be here's some alternatives. Here's you Quake and stuff like that. I'd give it some alternatives, and if they play it, say nope.
Like, kind of bland in its presentation.
And then if they're like, no, 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 still Blood. I'm like, well, does Blood have a multiplayer feature? And if they go, yeah, they got some death matches, then that's what you need to do. If you can't spend time on the story, then because you don't have the time, not because you refuse to use the time. What I'm saying is people that have schedules is what I'm talking about, not kids that just give up. I'm talking about people that say, hey, when I get off of work, I only have so many hours before I either have to go to bed or I have to go do something else for the family. I'm talking about those niche people. I'm not saying that you can't. What I'm saying is you wouldn't be able to invest in such a large story-bound game like Morrowind or Skyrim. And if you are absolutely determined to play something like Blood, then I'd say look up a multiplayer function for it. Does it? I don't know. I haven't really played it, but
Actually, believe it or not, Blood has full campaign co-op.
then what you do is say, hey, either I need to get one of my buddies, or I need to get a death match, or something that's similar that has a death match that's like 5 or 10 minutes long, like Call of Duty. That
Yeah,
way,
deathmatch. That's probably why Call of Duty actually got so popular, because it could be played by everybody. Like, there was something there for everyone, depending on how much time you had.
so if you was like, hey, I'm just a kid, I only go to school for a few hours, I'm homeschooled, then I can play all day. Campaign, perfect for you. Or you can do both, play campaign and multiplayer. But if you're at some guys like, hey, I only got a little bit of time, like I got like 1 hour after work and then I have to go back to the office, then you need to. It's not where I say don't play games. What I'm saying is don't play a game that requires hours and hours and hours of investment because you'll never get anywhere and it won't be fun for you. And no matter how much you mod it,
Question.
it
Oh,
won't.
what do you think about the people who are fine with making little steps here and there? Like, they will load up Morrowind, and they'll be fine making a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah, but then if you're modding it, and I'm like, well, then you're still you're trying to change it because your schedule. If you're not minding that, then you should have no reason to mod it for time efficiency's sake. Because you're like, well, time is not really a factor for me. Yeah, it's only an hour, but I don't care if it's slow or not. I'm just kind of here for Morrowind. Then he wouldn't be modding it anyway. He's there for Morrowind, but he expects that, and most people would that play Morrowind. You wouldn't find some newbie that get on there and say, "Yeah, I know Morrowind's going to be slow. I could get Morrowind beat in under a minute in a speed run. It is not slow. It's just a lot to explore, and that gives it more depth and time. But it's not slow because you can literally at level one run out of the main gate, run to the left, and there's a guy that'll fall down and die. You've seen the meme. You pick up that
Hmm.
soul, you jump into the middle of the mountain. All three items you need are there at the boss's chamber to beat the game. You go in there, you pick up those three items, you walk up to the boss, hit him once with it, and he'll die. Then go into the main chamber. You do not have to fight a boss of the game in Morrowind. There's a heart that does no damage to you, and you just got to hit it 4 times. And you go dagger, dagger, hammer, hammer, and the heart explodes. The boss dies, the cave collapses, and you walk out.
I would like to say that you must be some kind of fucking god then. Truly the chosen Nerevarine, because the world record is 2 minutes 28 seconds.
Well, minute was an estimate, not literally a minute, but
Yes, I went and fact checked you. Get wrecked, scrub.
but the point is, does a 2 minute game seem long to you or slow? No. What's slow is slow,
I would say at that
methodical.
point, you're not playing the game, you're playing a speed run.
Because the point of Morrowind is slow, methodical exploring, and slow, careful leveling. That is the very essence behind that game. That's what it's intended to do. If you don't have time to invest in that, you won't get what you're supposed to get out of the game. Because people that invest that kind of time, they get a reward, such as me, that could talk and tell you exactly how to do such a speed run. Because you've played it so much, you know you could make these steps happen and get done with it. Or you could just do random stuff. I could tell you exactly where to find stuff worth millions of gold, and within 30 minutes, actually, I could tell you to max out all your stats and never leave the starter area. I'm that good, and I could guarantee you I could do that.
Well, Morrowind's game system also supports that kind of stuff too, which is one of the reasons why I love Morrowind, because it lets you kind of do what you want to do.
But don't go in there and say, "Well, I don't have time to level. I need to put a mod in there that makes me start max level." You're missing the fucking point.
Well,
If
that
you don't,
would really be kind of like, what's the point of even playing then?
it's like people that's
That's a bit extreme.
put in a mod so you hit every time, like Oblivion or Skyrim. It's like no, no,
That
no,
is
no.
actually one of the more popular mods on Nexus mods.
It's like no, 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 no. You're missing the point of Morrowind's system. The whole point of Morrowind's system is you level those skills, and then you deserve to hit better. It's not where it's handed to you at the beginning like, well, even though I'm level 10 at the skill, I should have a 100% hit rate, because the leveling system on that game works as when you hit, you gain XP. So if you have a 100% hit rate, you'll have a 100% level rate. And that's not how that game was, and it breaks the system. And then if you take away the system of gaining XP, well, then you're no longer grinding, and the only way to level it is by getting a trainer, and that's not how the game's intended to go, because you could either do trainer or level it yourself by just repetitive fighting. That's what I'm saying. You cannot change anything about such a game like that and it makes sense. You just simply cannot do it. You might be able to change the graphics in it. That's fine. But I've
I
also
will.
seen
I still
graphics,
think that my favorite run speed mod is perfectly vanilla friendly.
but you do that and you realize, oh well, we changed the graphics on the characters, but sometimes hits don't register because the way the textures went on, and we can't fix that. Then don't do it. It's obviously not meant to do. There's limitations. You say like, hey, pretty much Morrowind is what you get. It's a slow exploration walking sim, basically.
It is a bit of a walking sim, and a pretty good one too.
That's what it is. And if you ask me, I say now, when you go into Morrowind, here's two things I can help you with. I can help you be your most overpowered character, no matter what stupid character you pick, no matter what stupid stats you pick. Before you leave that starter town, I can have you maxed out on every single stat and skill, because I just know the game that well. That's my reward for all the years of playing. Now then, I can also tell you, just
I will
go
say,
with the
like in
flow.
a case of someone who's like say someone's coming off like, oh, I can't be I'm gonna lose out on stats if I'm an orc. I need a mod that immediately levels every single stat for every race. I'm like, that kind of does lose some of the thing though. Like, yeah, you can still be a thief and an orc. I mean, there might be a little bit of an uphill struggle, but the game does not stop you there.
No, but the book, Morwin's official guide warns you about that. It's like, hey, you could be a high elf and a warrior. Just realize that your warrior stats will take a lot longer to level up,
Not
because
even particularly. Like, you can go ahead and pick your class and, like, make your own little custom class right there when you first start the game. Yeah, your bonuses as a elf will not be the best for supporting that, but
you could
even
do it.
then, that will not stop you.
No, you'll just learn the hard way. Like, hey, if I want to be a warrior, I should probably, at least for the early game, pick orc, nord.
And honestly, that's absolutely fantastic for the role-playing element, too, because why not have a character that has an uphill struggle? You can invent this backstory in your head, which is part of the fun of it. It's like, playing
Oh
D&D.
yeah, by the
You
way,
make your character.
uh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna end this thing, since I'm really good with lore and I have people ask me all the time, what is the canon Neverine? What's the canon Hero Kvatch? What's the canon Dragonborn? I'm going to fix this
Always
right now.
proud to bring this up, aren't you?
Do you know what it is?
You've told me before, man. The canon Nerevarine is a dark elf. Fuck, what was it called?
Hero
Hero
Kvat.
Kvat
Yeah.
is an Imperial. Canon Dragonborn is a Nord.
And they're all male. That's simply fact. So when I go for the Morrowind story, like, well, I'm going to do the main story, I play a male elf with the default, whatever the first face that pops up in hairstyle, that's what I use. That's default. That's the Neverine. That's what he's supposed to look like. Get over it. Now, when I play a thief, I do a Khajiit. When I do an assassin, I do a wood elf. When I do a barbarian for fighter's guild, I use orc or redguard. Usually I do redguard. Orcs, I just use as a wild man. I just run through the wilds with my battle axe and kill people. But back to mods, because we got off topic. Um, Mods making a game accessible for disabilities, I support fully. Like, hey, I only got one hand. I needed a mod to make it where it was all mouse movement instead of keyboard as well. All right. You deserve to have that mod. I have nothing to say against it.
Then let me make the argument here. The one mod I add, the one mod I advocate for Morrowind, is the one that simply changes run speed, the default speed. And the disability is the fact that you just save a little bit of time, you get to do a little bit more before you have to leave.
You just want me to say that your
Whatever's
mod
scheduling
is
it may
okay,
be.
don't you?
What?
You just want me to say that your mod is okay in my eyes, don't you?
Because I think it's that mild of a mod. Like, it really does not change any of the core experience. You still have to walk. You still can't just run away because all the enemies also have been scaled appropriately. I do really want you to say that this one is like one of the exceptions. So I'm trying to really do my best to convince you.
All right. Was it for Morrowind or Skyrim?
Morrowind.
Okay, for Morrowind, you'll never get me to convince it because I have 100,000 different ways in the game
No.
to level up your
You'll
speed.
never be quite as fast. You'll always be pretty fucking gimpy and slow. Morrowind is a bit
I quite
fucky with
literally
it.
have an exploit that, and I have a picture right now.
No, then you're using exploits. You're not. Then you're doing
what I'm
meta
saying
game.
is, I can use the game because that's what a mod is. It's an exploit. It's outside the function of the game intended for it. Because it's not.
But you don't have
canon.
to know a mod. You can just throw it on there and play a game. You have to know an exploit.
And you have to know a mod. You have to forcibly do it as well. A mod
No.
does come with
You
it.
don't have to do some weird fucky shit that involves you praying to a blood god and then summoning, and then, doing the hokey pokey while you turn yourself around upside down on the ceiling. But a mod, you can just throw that into the load order, play the game, and just, bada bing, bada boom, you walk
And
2% faster.
You changed the gameplay.
You have not changed the gameplay. In this case, the mod just makes you walk faster.
I don't know why you want me to say that it's okay or canon, but it's simply not.
Because I'm curious why you're still so adamant about one that's literally just a time saver.
Now, if you
Mr. Mod Man who gave the guy $1 billion gold.
If you would have said this on Skyrim, I would have had less.
Why Skyrim? Skyrim has a decent walk speed.
What I was saying was because there's no way to increase that walk speed. There's no internal components to make that, as far as I know, to make Skyrim where your character actually walks, his default speed walks faster. I think, if I'm not mistaken, high elves do a little bit faster.
Get a horse.
I think high elves, due to their height, are a little bit faster. And in Skyrim, there's a bug, not intended, that a orc male is the fastest because of height. And the way that their height is, because the taller your character is, which you think would be a high elf, but it's not. But the taller your character is, the faster the speed is. And there was a bug.
It's a lie. They call it a high elf, but it's really just a medium elf.
Yeah, and there was a patch to fix that. I never do it because I never play orc. Even so, I don't play orc to run fast. Anyway, when it comes to something like Skyrim, I have no known ways, and if there is no known ways, and you really need to pump it up, and you just simply refuse to fast travel all the time, you're like, I really just want to walk down these roads. I don't want to do fast travel. I just want to get random events. I want to spot new caves. I want to look at the wildlife. I installed a foliage mod, and I just want to get into it. Whatever. You do your thing. But if you're telling me on the game whose stats are so intertwined, like speed and stuff, like if they didn't have a speed stat in Morrowind, I would probably say whatever. You may be a little lazy, but whatever. That's all right. But it's not, since there's so much things that can increase speed that's meant to be intertwined with the game to make you faster, and people don't dedicate their time to find it or level it.
That's where I'll stop you right there. Because it's either A, your solution is use something that's either an inconvenience, like the boots of blinding speed, where you kind of need to line your shit up and take your time with that, or B, something that you need to drink, a potion you need to make that you need to get, or C, something you need to spend your time grinding and gradually building up, which takes a long time because, trust me, my running thing is not that very good still.
Okay,
I'm saying
or
you
D,
can
you
immediately
pick
start
two
the game.
characters and pick the little sign, the burst sign, the steed, and when you get out, you literally have like 85 speed. You're like 3 levels, and you be maxed out on speed. If you're needing any more than that, you're expecting
And
something out
I'm
of the game that's
saying
not
that
intended.
actually limits the player from what they want to do. If they have to pick the speed
You don't
just to
have
make
to. That's what I'm
things in
saying.
time,
Stats,
yes, you
stats in there
do.
is meant to be leveled. They're not meant to be handed to you as you're going in there. If you want speed,
You're
you
not
have to
handed
build your.
that. You're just handed a little bit more of default speed, which also goes for everyone else. It's all scaled appropriately.
And so you're saying that they scaled the spell speed as well, right? And the arrow speed to go along with it. Oh,
What?
you understand that arrows and spells also have a speed, right? When you
A
fling,
lot of spells are pretty instant, like hit scan and
they're
Morrowind.
not. You can easily dodge it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If
yeah, sure.
a touch spell up close,
Well, yeah,
yes,
those are basically hit scans.
those are instant. But if I'm shooting an arrow at you, I can sidestep it barely at that speed. Even at boots of binding speed, you barely dodge it, but you could dodge it. You could dodge
Other than
throwing
the
weapons.
fact that you really can't because the AI is actually pretty on you.
Well, I'll show you a gameplay later of me dodging spells and stuff. Because once they
And
move
I'll say
their,
that you did a task, sir.
but once they start moving their hands like a spell, you'll see it go. And as soon as they do that, and you start moving, they'll shoot where you was already standing. And then you got the arrows that will follow you slightly better. But unless they also increase the spell speed and the arrow speed, it is now changing the difficulty of the game because you can dodge that. And the whole intention of the speed stat was to be able to outrun arrows and throwing weapons and spells. That is one of the core features of the speed stat, not just walking to point A to
That
point
never
B faster.
happens.
What do you mean that never happens? I
Look,
literally
I
dodge
don't
arrows.
fucking know what you're talking about. Look, that sure they say that, but we're talking about Bethesda's engine here, and the AI there, when it comes to targeting, is actually pretty on the mark.
I don't know what mods you use to make them so accurate, but I can go
I
through a
don't know
gameplay
what mods
and
you're
never
using
get hit by a
so
ranged
brain
item.
dead.
Just watch them, because all you do is listen to the thunk
Look,
of the
maybe
bow
it's more
and
the
step
case that
aside.
every Bethesda game is personalized, but look, any character in any Bethesda game never misses on hitting me, vanilla or not.
I'll probably have to teach you how to dodge, but the point is, if it can be dodged,
Teach you how to dodge. This isn't Dark Souls. You step to the side.
yeah. But what I'm saying is, plus characters, they have the same kind of skills you do, where unless they're at 100 agility with 100 skill, and they walk up, they'll miss you too. They'll do that sound. They'll do the same thing you do. But for the ones that
I'm
don't,
aware. I've been playing Morrowind for well over 50 hours now.
all right, and then you know that there's some spells like lightning that if it hits you no matter what their skill on it. So long they can cast it and it gets out in the air, it can hit you. Now, next time you see a mage, get a little bit away from it and watch. And as soon as that bolt of lightning's in the air, move to the left. and you'll realize, oh, that thing doesn't follow me. It's not heat seeking. It goes in a straight line like a bullet. Once it's fired, that's it. It can't change its
You're
trajectory.
missing the part where
And then
just dodging isn't really an option.
that is meant for it. If you read the book that comes with Morrowind
Yeah,
when you buy it,
except
they tell you that speed is used for dodging projectiles.
that's wonderful, except the part where you need to go and actually kill the person who's trying to kill you.
That's what I'm saying is you're dodging the spells and you're getting closer to them. You double that speed even by 1%, you're now giving yourself an advantage. You're making the game
Hey, look,
easier.
I've never had a fucking advantage with these people, so I don't really think that it's made that much of a difference.
But I mean, you'll never get me to do that. And even if you said, well, later he came by and he made the missiles faster and he made the magic faster, well, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for a human to dodge that because there's limits to how fast a human can dodge. You bring it up 1, 2, 3, 4%. Now, something that
What if
I
you're just
dodge,
straight up strafing all the time?
if you strafe all the time, they'll aim in front of you. So that's what I like to do. You'll watch me on my gameplay. I'll walk to the left, and as soon as they shoot it, I
Oh,
stop.
you're not even talking about. Oh.
Do you get it now?
Oh.
Do you get the system?
You were talking about doing proper dodging, tricking the AI.
Because you were supposed to. That's what the speed stat is for. Dodging projectiles. You literally move out of the way. You're so fast that you can move out of the way as the projectile comes to you. That's the definition of dodge. If you increase your speed without increasing the missile speed, then you are giving yourself a, albeit slight, advantage. Even if they can walk with you, they're not walking and shooting that spell. They're standing still and aiming at you. And once that projectile is in the air, you can move to the left, right, or back. And if you're just slightly faster, you can now, the stuff that was undodgeable is now easier to dodge, or the stuff that was easy to dodge
Oh
is now
yes, you're
completely
getting a
to dodge.
point 0.002 advantage. I'm saying this mod does not break anything. I would gladly recommend this mod for a first time playthrough if someone just needs a little more speed.
Well, let me put it this way: it'd be like saying, "I'm going to play." What is that game where you go underground and you dig? It's some you're eating the mines, and I can't think of it right now. Well, I'll use Minecraft. Say you play Minecraft, and you literally put in instead of saying, "Oh, I know I got to dig for diamonds, but I'm going to put a mod that spawns in with a full set of my diamond gear."
That is not the same thing.
To me, that's to me. Even increasing the speed from 50 to 51 is doing the same thing. It's like if you're going to do that, you might as well.
That's a bit extreme.
You might
That's
as well
a bit
mod all
extreme.
your stats up to 8,000, so that way you can go
No, that
around
is a
one-shotting
completely
everything.
different thing.
Because what you're wanting, I can already do. I mean, I can already do that. Why do I need a mod to give me movement speed if I can already do it? Why do I want to get a mod to give me
Because
diamonds?
to get the movement speed in game vanilla is still a long time. It's still a lot of either metagaming or grinding, which a lot of people don't want to do.
Then, right there, my thing is
Metagaming ruins the roleplay.
then my
When
thing
I
is
would like
you're
to
playing
say
the
that
wrong
if you're
game.
metagaming, you're missing the role-playing element of the role-playing game.
If you're that's what right there, you just kind of beat yourself. You're like, well, the whole point of the game is to role play. You're missing it. If part of the game's core gameplay is leveling this stat, or either you buy the item or you level the stat. That's what two options Bethesda gave to you. If you do anything outside those things, like an exploit or a mod, then it is wrong. No matter what, even if it's like, okay, instead of starting speed of 50, we're at 51. You still made the game easier, even if it's by 0.0001%. That's irrelevant. The point is, it's still easier. And on a game like Morrowind, one little point, it compounds. Because the next level is even easier and even easier. To the point where instead of being level 30 and the game is starting to level out, you're level 8 and the game's already at that point. And by level 10, you're a literal god. Because it just compounds. No. Does that what your speed thing does? No. But when you level your speed, does your character still get faster?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so that means the projectiles are now getting slower and slower. And now they're because I understand. Say you start at 50% and two. What'd you say? 2% speed boost
Huh?
on your mod. You said it does like 2% faster.
Oh, no, I don't actually know what the exact number is, but I was just giving an example.
Okay, well, say that.
I picked the lowest one just because I just want a little tweak.
Okay, well, let me just give a little bit of number. Say it's 10. Instead of starting at 50, you start at 60 speed. That doesn't seem like a lot, right? And that seems about right on your eyes. Well, then you get up to say level 3 and you've been leveling up speed, you know. Well, now instead of being at the 60 speed where you was, you're now at 70. You're literally double the power you're supposed to have. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to games with such numbers and mathematical equation and formulas, one little number throws out the entire balance of the system. It may not seem like it at first, but as you get on and on,
I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it because the point of a mod is to make the game more enjoyable for you.
no, it's to make it easier.
No. Because I'm not having the game easier by downloading Cloud Strife Sword, which has the exact same stats as a steel sword. I'm doing it because I enjoy having that massive fucking sword that's ridiculous to me, and I'm laughing about it.
And then, I mean, of course, my
If I'm getting a mod that gets me a little bit of magic regen, I'm enjoying the fact that I don't have to either wait an hour, potentially get attacked by a rat for no fucking reason, or just sit there and wait and sleep under the stars for no reason.
And then my thing is like, well, then you just don't. Your people's just not playing the game properly, is what I could say. Because I played a strictly where I was only allowed to level magic and not health, and I beat the game, and I never once ran out of magic. Why? You just got to play carefully. You can't just do whatever you want and expect it to work out. You have to earn that right. You got to say, I leveled strictly nothing but magic. I'm a high elf.
All right, Alpha Gamer. All right, I get it. You're right. You're so better than everyone.
I'm not better than anybody. I'm telling you that that's how the game is intended.
No, this is the real never Ebenezer Scrooge over here.
Yes, I am the Neverine. Don't tell anybody else.
The Never Scrooge.
But in essence, I mean, do you want me to say that yours is all right? I guess so. I guess.
Look,
so.
my point is, in the grand scheme of things, if you really the only thing you want to mod in a game is something that just gives you a little bit of leg up, just a little bit of brief respite in this cold, unforgiving world where this one game is almost perfect, but one little thing is just dragging you down, go ahead. I'd say in that case, go ahead. If it's your first playthrough, go ahead. I don't particularly recommend modding your first playthrough. But if that's the only thing that's dragging you down, go ahead.
If you could say, all right, listen, I played, say, I beat the game 4 times using different characters and different classes, and I did different guilds, and I played it 4 or 5, beat it 4 or 5 different times, and I haven't used the mods. I'm thinking of a little bit of change. What should I do? Then I would probably recommend your little speed one, not the magic regen, because that is making the game easier regardless, even if it's 1% faster.
That was literally the point for me. I just wanted a little bit of ease.
But having a game easier, is that always bad? No. But
no, not in particular. I didn't feel like
it is, because I'm like, well, I didn't earn this. Because see, if you do something like that, it makes me feel bad. When I beat the game, it's like, yeah, but I had help doing it. It wasn't because I took the time and I did all the stuff right. I leveled the character properly, and I got to the end. It's like, well, if it wasn't for me being able to walk faster.
No, that's the big difference between us. This is the one thing that we really should have stayed right off the bat instead of 2 hours in. We've been sitting here for 7 weeks and we haven't gotten to the point.
Well, we've just been talking about different examples.
My point is that actually that's the big part where we differentiate. I do not like hardcore games. I do not like difficult. I'm usually in for story and just being able to fuck around.
Well, if you're looking for difficult, it's not in Skyrim, because you could probably sneeze too hard and win that through a glitch.
Now, you on the other hand, I've seen the kind of stuff you like to play. You do like a challenge. You are a bit more of a challenge-based gamer.
Look,
I wouldn't say that's
what I
like your
do on
entire
my
thing, but you definitely do enjoy it.
what I do on my weekends on my Pornhub page is my oh, you mean my games? Yeah, yeah. I like challenges, I guess. All right, but it's not just that. It's not entirely the challenge. It's more of, like I said, I was raised in the NES era where the game was just a challenge in itself. The Legend of Mario, getting to Bowser and getting to Princess Peach, that was it. That was your challenge. And if you beat it, you just beat it. You're done. You win. Congratulations, you got bragging rights. So sadly, I still have that mentality even into Skyrim's games. Like, I don't need your changes. I don't need that changes. I want what this developer has put in front of me. I want it in its purest form to know that I beat it in its purest form. No matter what anybody says, I didn't need to have help. I didn't need to have graphic changes.
Honestly, in Skyrim's case, genuinely, I'll take a difficulty increase mod. It's kind of a simple game.
And stuff like Kenshi, yeah. I mean, I give myself off limit, own my own limits because I just feel like it's how it should be. Like, technically, you're supposed to fight and get knocked out a lot. That's how you level up your toughness. When I play a character said if I get knocked out, I delete the character and start over. So I have to play really, really good and never get knocked out. So I have to play ranged. I have to play different. That's just me putting things up there. I play games that if you lose, it deletes the game. Like Project Homeboy, when you die, it deletes your save game. You're done. I think they recently added where you can replay the same world, but you lose all your stats and your character, and then you have to go find your old character, kill them, and get your loot back.
This other one, this the one that came out on the Wii U. Actually, did that concept, and it was actually a really neat concept. I like that someone else decided to use that too. That's a really good idea for a zombie game.
Yeah, you need to play Zomboid sometimes online, but I guess to let people know.
I did not enjoy it for a second.
But just so I can kind of clear up, and then I'll let you say some parting words probably.
Me
Mods,
speak?
yeah, mods are not inherently bad. I mean, the joke ones, the meme ones, yeah, just for somebody just to mess around. But when you are so adamant that your game requires that mod in order to be playable, even though it was playable just fine without it, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Because then that's when you're saying, I can make this game better, and I know it's better with this. I guess the only thing example I have is your speed mod, which is not true. That's what I want people to understand, that you can't say that it's better.
No, it's better for me, and that's my big thing. For me, I enjoy it. And for probably other people, considering it is on the top of popular all time on Nexus mods, I would say that other people enjoy it too. But it's not required. It's not necessary. It's not something you should do.
I would like people, instead of saying, I can't remember what word I was going to use, was, I can't remember. There was a word I was like, well, use this word instead of making it better. It's for you. It's different. Instead of saying
different,
better, different. Use that word to say, well, I got this mod that makes it better. No, 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 no. You got a mod that makes it different, not
in
better.
that case. I generally accept that. I assume in that case that they mean in context better for them.
Because when you say got mods, I made Skyrim better. Well, that's
generally in that case. I mean that I made it better for me, not particularly for anyone else.
Because I made a mod, and the only reason why I uploaded it was so I could re-download it when I lost my game, not for other people
just
to play
in case.
Because for a while there, I even had it blocked in private. Why? Because I didn't make it for. I didn't do it to be better. I did it because it was different, not better. Because I thought the game was better without it. When I show people on my videos the game, I'm removing that. And I'll have to sit there and say, now in the old days, we did this. We had to sleep and balance books and budgets and time and NPC.
And we had to walk up the hill both ways.
You know, barefooted, naked.
And we liked it.
And only on one hand, but All right, so enough about me. Let's talk about me. Now, let's talk about you. First, since nobody knows about
Me,
you,
I'm just a little guy.
yeah, you've just been a voice in the back of my head. Tell them a little bit about what you have been up to, what kind of plans you have, a little bit about your channel and stuff like that, and then I'll.
Oh, largely, I just kind of goof around. My channel's mostly shitposts and recent content. I still do gaming stuff here and there, but largely I've been trying to focus on developing my game, which is currently under wraps. I do not want to divulge too much information about.
All right, so I'm just going to let you go on a tangent for about 10, 15 minutes. That should be enough time to get anybody's point across. uh, Go ahead and recommend mods. You did, what was it, Extra Crispy. If you know any particular mods for other games, go ahead and recommend them now.
Well, Extra Crispy is a pretty fantastic one if you're looking for a good old shake-up or just more of being able to rampage. I'd say a very impressive one is Tale of Two Wastelands, which is less of a mod, more of a merging that brings Fallout 3 into Fallout New Vegas, allowing you to play the entirety of both games in one game in a single playthrough. Very fascinating. Very impressive how it works. There's if in the old shooter genre, there's a full engine conversion called Real Return to Castle Wolfenstein, which both updates the engine and tweaks some of the graphics a little, looks a little smoother. Doesn't really screw around with any of the stuff, just helps it run better a little bit. But it's still a mod in the end. Adds some guns, I will say that. What other noteworthy mods?
What is it? Frontier, Fallout New Vegas Frontier, whatever it's called.
I don't really know much about that one. Although that is a very impressive mod for New Vegas that
You have sex
adds
slaves in there.
drivable cars.
You get sex slaves in there.
Yeah, they changed that because there were slight problems with the people who made those sex slaves. So a lot of stuff actually got reworked
Shame.
for the better. Trust me, it was some really creepy stuff.
I want
There is a
dual
mod
sex
which
slave.
has a shit ton of Fallout stuff into 7 Days to Die, which is actually really good.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. I was gonna bring that up. It's like you meet unmodded, need to play a playthrough of 7 Days to Die with like a goal of some sort, and once we hit it, maybe challenges like every day is Horde Night or something like that later.
I was thinking that I could be your challenge. I'll just harass you like Majima harasses Kiryu. Like you'll be minding your own business, then I'll just pop up out of nowhere and start hitting you with a baseball bat.
It was Majima that uses the bat, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. He was it called Kiryu-san or Chan? Kiryu-chan?
Kiryu-chan!
Is he really older than Kiryu?
I think Majima is older than Kiryu.
By just a little bit, though.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Well, anyway, we're probably going to wrap this up. It's been 2.5 hours of me talking negative. I wish.
Me trying to desperately convince you that just let me run faster, damn it! Let me be free!
But in the end, everybody just kind of do whatever makes you, you know? Just because
In the
I
end,
don't
keep
like
in
it.
mind, you're here for our entertainment. Now subscribe now, damn it!
Yeah. Thanks for watching. I think the next topic may be, I don't know. I guess I can't think that far ahead. I had it in my head already, but then it was gone. Like an angel's
Next
kiss.
topic will probably be about...
Yeah.
Sorry, I had a stroke there.
Yeah, it'll be about that. Whatever that was, that's what it'll be about. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do some. I'm gonna send Forest Boy a couple of games and be a lookout on this channel. Thanks for watching.